Get up and get your day started. Sports 56 mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Now, here are your hosts, Greg and Eli.
We are rolling through an ice-cold week here in Memphis and the Mid-South. Could be worse. Could be New Orleans. Yes, could be Houston. Unbelievable weather with snowfall. Some they haven't seen in decades and decades and decades. But it is ice cold today, and it will continue to be for at least several days. We welcome you into Sports 56 Mornings. Happy Hump Day to you. It's the Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 edition of the program. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Siggers with you from the Family Leisure Studios. Again, we thank Family Leisure for sponsoring our comfortable studio where it's nice and warm inside here. It's nice and warm over at Family Leisure, 2120 Whitten Road, just north of I-40, where the floor model sale continues. All 2024 inventory has to go, and you can get savings up to 50%. They need to make room for the 2025 inventory. So if you're looking for a pool table, arcade table, maybe a cold plunge or a hot tub, they have it for you on discount with those 2024 models at Family Leisure. As I mentioned, cold, frigid, 14 degrees. It'll get up to 36 today. We'll see mostly sunshine, a little bit of clouds. Then tonight, 23 for your low, mostly clear skies. Your Thursday looks to be warmer. 45 degrees after an overnight low of 24. And again, mostly sunshine. Low percentage of precipitation, which is a good thing this week, or we'd have a lot of the white stuff like our friends from the South. Again, absolutely crazy. Coming up on the program today, number of different things we're going to dive into, including the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies embark now on 3 games in 4 days, all at home. This is coming off the win on Monday, so it could be a really good week for the Grizzlies. They play 3 teams that, record-wise at least, are inferior. I think talent-wise are inferior. Starts tonight with the Hornets, who will be in town from Charlotte for a game at FedEx Forum. We'll talk college basketball, some SEC results from yesterday. The Ole Miss Rebels play tonight against Texas A&M. The Memphis Tigers do not play until tomorrow night, but Penny Hardaway calls it Separation Week. The Tigers hosting Wichita State on Thursday, and then UAB on Sunday. We'll talk NFL playoffs, the conference championship games on Sunday, the latest as far as NFL coaching is concerned. Major League Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2025 was announced yesterday. We will discuss that on the program. We got some other college hoop news that I want to get into, some trade rumors in the NBA with the trade deadline just around the corner. We'll take your calls and texts on the Sissy's Log Cabin listener lines at 901-360-8255. That is your lineup for this Wednesday edition of Sports 56 Mornings. How are you, man?
I am cold.
Yes.
It is. This is just stupid. I hate it. This is just, it's miserable. Miserable stuff.
You running the faucets at home?
No, I don't do that, but this is miserable.
See, is it a myth? Or, obviously, pipes bust and burst.
No, certainly, yeah. I mean, you can depend. I mean, part of it depends where your pipes are in your house and outside walls and stuff like that. But
so why don't you do it? Everything's insulated for you.
I feel comfortable with where I.
You like your pipes?
Where my pipes are.
You like the pipes? All right. I went ahead and turned them on a little bit, let them drip last night into the morning here. But it is, look, it's bitter cold. And everything seems to be extreme when it's cold. And I'll give you an example. I get an allergy shot, not every week, but every other week. I get an allergy shot. And it's never a problem. Never. And it's not like it's a problem this week, but it hurts like hell. I got it yesterday. It still hurts this morning. And I don't know if it's because, again, it's cold. Everything's right now just maybe exaggerated a bit. I never feel the way I'm feeling right now in my bicep on my right arm with that needle I got yesterday. I don't think they did anything different. Same size needle, put it in the same area. Hurts like hell. think just everything hurts a little bit more. We're all a little slower walking around. I know
My whole body hurt. My body hurts when I'm, especially when I'm out in this stuff.
Well, my body
Everything hurts. Just sucks. This stuff sucks.
My body doesn't necessarily hurt. I'm tired, but that comes with the territory of getting up this early. But I think everybody moves a little slower when it's cold. Again, you were born in the Chicago area. You think you would be used to this stuff. Northeast, where I'm from, yeah, it got cold in the winter. We had snow, but we didn't have Chicago snow. And I can't believe what's going on down south. The Gulf of America snow. The rarity of rarities.
Yeah, seeing some of the images down there, some friends down there that posted some pictures on social media and stuff. It's an interesting world for the folks down there.
How about that picture of Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge with the snow? It was beautiful. It was a beautiful photo. How about the video of the dude playing ice hockey on Canal Street?
I did not see that.
Oh my gosh, it was cool. Skating around, you hear the puck going off the stick, and there were some great photos. How about the still photo? I don't know where it was. If it was in Florida, Gulf Shores, wherever it was, it was somewhere right there on the Gulf, and you could see those palm trees. I don't know if they were palmetto or palm. I think they were palm trees, and then all snow. It was just a really strange, surprising, but cool picture.
Yeah, I saw a lot of palm tree pictures with the snow. That's for sure. Got friends, a lot of friends that live down there in that, Destin type area, stuff like that, or have places down there. A lot of pictures from down there. Just that's a weird view. That's for sure.
I wonder if folks had scheduled a vacation for this week down there, and they followed through, and instead of going down there for the sun and fun and a little maybe tanning session and swimming in the ocean or the bay or the Gulf, they are having snowball fights and making snowmen. Wasn't what we signed up for.
Yeah, that would suck. Although, if you're going on a vacation, if you're in that area, it's not like it's going to be, you're expecting super warm either this time of year.
Yeah, I don't know that area that well. I've only been down to Destin once. So it does get cold often in the winter?
Yeah, the north part of Florida, it's not, again, they don't get much snow, I don't think, but they get, I've been down there before when it's been near freezing.
Right, but that's not an exception to the rule. Really, you don't vacation in the winter down there? It's not warm enough? Basically,
I don't go down there often, but I know that, times I've been down there, I've been down there in November, it's been cold. I've been down there in this time of year, it's been cold. I think it's cold. It's not like you're out swimming this time. This isn't South Florida.
Right, but I'm pretty sure in the winter you can go to Kiawah Island and maybe you're not going to swimming, but you can lay on the beach. And that's in South Carolina. I don't know. I'm sure there's warm days and cold days, just like there is in Memphis.
Yeah, I'm sure they do have the warm days, just like we do here. They have different times, but yeah, it's not like they're like, oh my gosh, it's cold down here. We've never experienced this.
Right. No, but for some places like New Orleans, that's freaky. What's going on? Houston, Texas. Are you kidding me? That's freakish. You wonder if the world's ending, for goodness sakes. I'd rather have consistent seasonal weather. In other words, where I'm from,
75 degrees every day.
Well, then move to San Diego. Where I'm from in New Jersey, winter hits, it's winter. It varies. You might have a 15-degree night. You may have a 38-degree night, but you're not going to have an 80-degree night. We here just back and forth. Back and forth. You're not surprised if one week is in the 70s and the next week's in the 20s. But that's it. We made our bed, and we're sleeping in it. But again, you want 72 all around the year? Head west, my friend. Head to San Diego. You'll get it. All right, so bunch of different things happening yesterday.
That's not true either, because that to lie about San Diego, because when I was out there this year, it never got out of the 50s.
Well, you had that weird fog and all that stuff like that, but that's rare. San Diego, for the most part, is consistently beautiful.
I want global warming. I was promised global warming. Where the hell is it?
No, you got hell freezes over. That's what you got.
14 degrees or whatever it is right now here.
14.
Give me my global warming. Where do I got to go to find this global warming you guys talk about?
It's at Target. You could order online. So,
but that Target has probably been stolen here in Memphis.
So there's a bunch of stuff last night. We didn't have it was the one night last night where there wasn't a game at FedEx Forum, whether it be the Grizzlies or Tigers basketball.
No, the entertainment in town last night was with the school board.
Do you follow that stuff?
God, no. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand a lot of things in this town, especially in politics and especially with our school system. That's like the weirdest stuff. I don't know any of the thing. All I know is that it seems like every sane person I know thinks that this stuff is insane of what they just did last night. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't get involved with it. Don't have any kids in that school system. Don't care about it. Whatever. But every sane person I know thinks that this is insane.
Yeah, I don't follow it that closely. I kind of have an idea what happened, and of course they ousted the superintendent, the woman was running the show. Hadn't been there that long, but yeah, it was fireworks. There was more fireworks last night, like you said, in the school board hearings or meetings than there was really in the sports world. Although in college basketball last night, we had some really interesting games, including UConn sliding by Butler in overtime, and the quote from Dan Hurley, if you folks missed this. Dan Hurley turns to the official, the referee, Nathan Farrell. Could be Farrell, but Farrell. And he says, "Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best coach in the effing sport." What do you think about that? First of all, is Dan Hurley the best coach in the effing sport? But number two, do you like, if you're a UConn fan or any fan of any school, do you like your coach being that braggadocious, saying that to the official?
Well, we know Dan Hurley is insane.
Certified, yeah.
On the sideline.
Yes.
He goes crazy. He is a certified lunatic on the sideline.
No question.
And if you're a UConn fan, you are completely fine with it because he's won 2 championships in a row and you don't care what he does. Unless he does something where he gets a technical to cost them an NCAA tournament game or something like that, their fans don't care what the hell he does on the sidelines as long as he keeps winning them championships. Other fans of other teams don't like Dan Hurley because he, 1, beats them, and 2, he's a lunatic. And you think it's over the top and everything else when you're going against him. My problem with Dan Hurley last night is after the game, he said that he wishes the cameras would show the other coaches more. Well, you've just got done telling a referee you're the best in the sport. You've come out basically saying that you should get special attention from the officials because you're the best in the sport.
Right.
Why would the cameras not show you that same special attention? Like, don't ask the official to give you the special attention and then tell the cameras, no, don't show me. Like, show the other coaches.
Yeah, that's ludicrous, first of all. Over the history of sports, a very well-known or very popular coach who's as animated is always going to be shown more than another coach who may not be as known, may not be as animated. They're always going to show those type of coaches. The great coaches always got the spotlight, whether it was Coach K or whoever. So that's always going to be a part of it. So I don't think he's being singled out, not because of his antics. He's being singled out because he's Dan Hurley, and he just led his team or his program to 2 straight national championships.
Well, any coach losing their mind on the sidelines these days, the camera's going to go to it.
Well, we've seen it with Calipari. We've seen it with Bruce Pearl. We've seen
he's
it.
constantly losing his mind on the sideline.
Right.
So they're going to show that quite often.
But
he doesn't want to be shown to act like a normal human being.
Right, but that's in addition to they're going to show him because he's the coach of UConn and they won 2 straight national championships. So he's always going to be in the spotlight. The more known coach is going to be in the spotlight. When the Tigers play in this conference, I guarantee you they show Penny Hardaway more than the other coach. He's pretty famous. But there has to be proof in the pudding. And the guy's won 2 national championships. Does it mean he's the best coach in college basketball? No. But you could argue it, and it would be a pretty good argument. You could look at some of those all-timers like Bill Self, who's been around forever, Tom Izzo, who's been around forever. But Hurley's already won more championships than Izzo. So I don't know. That's the one argument. You know, is he right in what he's saying? Now, nobody agrees that he should be saying that to an official. But that's Hurley. He's always going to do that. And ended up getting the win in overtime by 2 points. In the SEC last night, Tennessee at home at Thompson Bowling held off Mississippi State 68-56. The most impressive part of that was winning and holding Mississippi State to under 60 points. That was some good defense.
Well, I mean, look, Tennessee don't play good defense. Generally, that's what they do. And on their home floor, they are dominant. They have won every game by double digits on that home floor. Their problem is usually, if they have problem, it's on the offensive end where they will have nights where they struggle. But last night, Chaz Lanier goes 5 for 12 from 3-point range. Got other contributions. He was the one that obviously, goes for 23. I don't know if anybody else went. I think there were a couple of other guys at double digits. If they can get him making shots and play that type of defense, which they can normally do, then they're a very dangerous team. But it's when he struggles from the field or they just struggle overall from the field, and they have one of those nights that they can easily be beaten even like playing that defense because they can have a night where they score in the 40s or 50s.
Alabama at home, Coleman Coliseum in Tuscaloosa. They knocked off Vanderbilt 103-87.
Again, you go back to what Ole Miss did to them last week and holding them to whatever it was, 56 points or whatever. It's incredible. I mean, they follow that up with 2 100-point performances in the next 2 games. And I'm sure that Nate Oates probably, after that Ole Miss game, they probably had some tough practices. Probably had a message with it. But, they put up 103 last night. Mark Sears puts up 21, only shot 2 3-pointers in the entire game. Got to the free throw line. They had 2 guys, Diabate and Holloway, that came off the bench and scored 22 each. How nice is that to have 2 guys come off your bench and score 22 each?
That's a deep team. I
mean, Holloway is like their bench. You got Holloway, who was I don't even know where he was ranked in the rankings last year before when he went to Auburn, but he was a 5-star, one of the top players in America. And then not Diabate, but the other guy who came off the bench last night is the Youngblood kid who was the co-player of the year in the American Athletic Conference last year at USF. Like, that's your bench. That's why you went and got in the transfer portal to reinforce your bench. A 5-star recruit who was an all-freshman team member in the SEC and a guy who was a conference player of the year out in another conference. You go, you can come in here and be our 6th and 7th guys.
Well, we've talked about it before. You don't have to have 12 guys. All you need is 7 and 8 guys. But the 6th and 7th and 8th guy, maybe you could stretch it out to the 9th guy. Those backups, they need to be quality. And if they are quality, like obviously Alabama has, that's a deep team. You're not going to get any deeper. I don't care if you have 12 guys who are actually capable of playing. I'm talking about playing at a high level. Those 3 or 4 backups that you have need to be interchangeable with your starters. And that's what Alabama has.
Well, I think they play. I mean, he basically plays 8 guys. And I think they play at
and they play at a fast pace, right?
And they play a lot of minutes. Like I don't think that now they blow teams out a lot, so they do get to rest these guys in some games. But they play at an unbelievable pace and play basically 8 guys, and they're just fine doing it.
Elsewhere in the SEC last night, Texas over number 22 Missouri, 61-53. So who knows? The Tigers will have one more game on Saturday, but they could be a team that drops out. And Memphis, if they can win their 2 games, move up in the rankings. As far as the standings are concerned in the SEC, Auburn, a perfect 5-0 in conference play. Alabama, 5-1 right behind. Then Ole Miss at 4-1 with a huge one tonight against Texas A&M. The Aggies come in at 3-2.
Yeah, should be a good game down in Oxford. Ole Miss, even in the loss against Mississippi State on the road on Saturday, played very well, getting that game into overtime. This is going to be the problem for them tonight. Is going to be, as it is with everybody that plays Texas A&M, is how do they keep Texas A&M off the boards? Texas A&M, year in and year out, is one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the nation. Ole Miss, without a whole lot of size, certainly will be a massive challenge for them to keep this Texas A&M team off the board. And I don't know, is Wade Taylor going to be back? I don't know if he is supposed to be back yet or not, what his situation is. But Texas A&M rebounds basically 43% of the available offensive rebounds. So basically, just under 1 out of every 2 misses that they have, they rebound it themselves. I mean, they are, and it's every single year they are way up there. That's just part of Buzz Williams' mentality, is we are going to go get offensive rebounds. So that'll be a huge challenge tonight for Ole Miss to try and keep them off the boards.
We had a few upsets around the nation yesterday. It wasn't the carnage that we saw on Saturday. Out on the West Coast, Wisconsin, number 18, lost at UCLA, 85-83. I would have thought that UCLA would win that game, and they did by 2. This one was a surprise. Ohio State had a big lead over Purdue in West Lafayette. Purdue got back into that game, ended up, I believe, tying it up. Ohio State ends up winning at 73-70, so they upset the number 11 team in the nation.
Yeah, it was a couple upsets of the Big Ten. The Big Ten, a lot like the SEC. I mean, there's a lot of capable teams that on a nightly basis you can lose to. UCLA has been struggling mightily, but that's still a team that is very capable of beating anybody. And Ohio State, a lot the same. They're capable on a given night. So, yeah, I mean, you've already had, we're just now to Wednesday, and you've had number 11, 18, 22, and 23 lose. So it could end up being another week just like last week, which is probably the way it's going to be a lot throughout the year, because that's what college basketball is now.
Well, that's saying a lot if it's as bad as it was last week. I don't think I've ever seen a week like last week. Have you been following the Kentucky radio versus Seth Greenberg feud?
No. That's a feud that I will stay out of.
It's all about John Calipari. And I forget who the host was on Kentucky radio, but basically he said, in a nutshell, I've been friends with Seth for a long, long time, but Seth is now getting on my case, and he's doing it to other people. And you had guys like Jeff Goodman and others that came out of the woodwork on Twitter to back him up and say that Greenberg is trying to rip apart these guys because they're critical of John Calipari. He says, worry about your own team, which is Kentucky. Well, again, Calipari was the coach at Kentucky, so it all kind of intertwines. But Seth is obviously close with Cal, and there's criticism about what's going on with Arkansas. And there should be criticism with Arkansas. Then it didn't hurt that yesterday they got the news that Boogie Flan is out for the year.
Oh, it did hurt.
Well, yeah, it hurt.
It hurt. That's going to hurt. I mean, they can't get any worse in conference play, but losing him, that doesn't help. I know that much. It's going to be rough.
I meant to say didn't help, not didn't hurt. But, yeah, Boogie Flan, you lose probably your most consistent player, and they're already winless in the conference. So, again, that criticism, it comes with the territory. I think Cal's a big boy, doesn't need Seth Greenberg to fight his battles. At least that's my opinion.
They've got 2 home games this week, Georgia and Oklahoma. 2 winnable games. They're favored tonight against Georgia. If they were to lose these 2, I don't know. I don't
His
know.
discount at Walmart
I don't know where the wins are going to come from.
Rescind it.
because there's obviously, again, in the SEC, there's not many out there. And without Fland, I don't know what that's going to do at the point guard position for them. It's rough times up there in Fayetteville for old Johnny.
I think what Cal should do with his team is throw him on a plane, fly to Memphis, bring him over to shoot 360 Memphis. Perhaps they can get their game going, they can get their shooting better, they can find more consistency and become a better team. In all seriousness, you as an individual basketball player, whoever it may be, a son, a daughter, grandson, granddaughter, yourself, little children as well, you can benefit from becoming a member at Shoot 360 Memphis. It's a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification, provides instant objective feedback with hands-on one-on-one expert coaching. In other words, you're going to have a good time becoming a better player, a better shooter, and you're going to have that tutelage that you need from these expert coaches. In Cordova, they got the new 50,000 square foot facility. It has 2 NBA regulation size courts, 3 high school size courts, 4 shooting bays with Shoot 360 technology. They also have the original in Collierville. You can call them at either location, set up a tour. You can do it for both. You can become a member at both if you like. But I would recommend that you at least take the tour, and they will be kind enough to show you whenever you get that opportunity. So call them in Cordova at 901-779-3176 and set up that tour. Or in Collierville at 901-316-5500. You can go right online to Shoot 360 Memphis and sign up right now. Or again, as I suggest, go take the tour, see what it's all about. I think you're going to fall in love with it. And then sign up. Monthly memberships available. You can certainly join up for a longer term, but you can do it month to month, and that's probably the way to go. I think you're going to fall in love with it. It's Shoot 360 Memphis. The future of basketball is training. The future of basketball training is here at Shoot 360 Memphis. And don't forget, coaches, they offer free coaching clinics at Shoot 360 Memphis. Contact them and get more information about that. Shoot 360 Memphis. Just underway on a Wednesday. When we come back, Penny Hardaway talking about the importance of this week's games. We'll talk about that. And also the Hall of Fame voting for the class of 2025. And it happened once again. We'll tell you what it is when we return. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Join the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin, for Wolo and Friends. Weekday mornings from 10 to 11 here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Jenkins Floors and More invites you to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Goodman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate. Owners Timmy and Rebecca Jenkins say hello to Sports 56 fans and look forward to your business. The Family Leisure floor model sale is happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even football tables from 20 to 60% off. Want beers here? Family Leisure has theaters selling up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the family staff at Family Leisure that you are this commercial. It's the floor model. So now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, 100 I-40, family and fun come together.
New year, new savings during the Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat Start Something New sales event on the Pike. We got it covered in 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer L Series 3, $23,156 off MSRP and 0% for 36 or 3.9 for 72 months is available. available. 2023 Jeep Renegade Upland 4-wheel drive Sport, $309 a month. Buy it for $23,723. And power up in 2025 Ram 1500 Bighorn, $13,758 off MSRP or $629 a month. Plus all 2023 models, you can save up to $16,906 off. So drive past the rest. Come to the best. Gossett Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram Fiat. Online, GossettMotorCars.net.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motorcars.
RS 145 331 MSRP 123 155 Renegade Triple P 57 256 MSRP 31095 Ram SN 544 525 MSRP 56 825 includes all rebates and incentives and excludes PF 695 excludes tax title and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Dealer stock only.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Trying to pick up a little bit more volume in the last few minutes, but it's still moving. Coming in from Fayette County into Shelby County on 40 westbound as you work your way past Chambers Chapel 269. It's looking pretty good for the most part. Southbound Austin P getting up on that ramp there to I-40. It won't be long before it builds even more with volume. I-40 east at the Hernando de Soto Bridge over from West Memphis. St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. They find cures for kids with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. If you'd like to help out the kids, make a donation at stjude.org. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Now back to Sports 56 morning on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everybody. Last night in the American Conference in men's basketball, UAB at home beat UTSA 81-78. And in overtime, East Carolina at Tulsa. East Carolina wins 85-76. Coach Penny Hardaway, the Memphis Tigers, getting his team ready for a big week with games tomorrow night against Wichita State and then Sunday, I think a noon tip against UAB, both games here in Memphis at FedEx Forum. Penny said this is separation week for us in our conference. I don't think there's any question. UAB right now leads the conference at 5-1. Temple, who beat Memphis, and North Texas, and Memphis beat North Texas, are all at 4-1. And then Tulane, after losing the game the other night at Temple, is 4-2. I think those teams are starting to separate themselves from everybody else in the league. But look, you lose a game, you're out of the top 25. You ain't getting back in there. It's not that important, but for some it is. There's just not enough. There's no quality games out there really to catapult yourself back into the top 25 if you lose, unless a ton of teams around you lose. We saw last week the carnage, and yet Memphis still dropped 6 spots and nearly dropped out of the poll. They remain in both polls, but just barely. But I think he's absolutely right. This is separation week. Memphis wasn't the pick to win the conference, but many obviously expect them to do so after the start to the season they got off to and being nationally recognized and having those big victories. But if you happen to lose one of these two games, God forbid you lose both, that is separation in a bad way. But if you win both these games, there's separation in a good way. So I think Penny is right on about the importance of this week, especially being at home. You have to take care of business at home because you're still going to have those games on the road coming up in conference play, including a game in Birmingham, a return game.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to call it, in the end, like, you can't lose home games. Not in this conference. You have to. There is no excusable home loss whatsoever. They're going to be massive favorites in both games. Like, you have to win. Bottom line. And UAB's 133 in the net. Wichita State's 160 in the net. Like, these are games that are against teams that you should win. And UAB's playing better now, but they barely squeak by UTSA, who's awful.
Yeah.
So it's not like this is some great basketball team coming in here.
Well, you said they should be huge favorites. What would be your guess as to how much they'll be favored in these two games? Because I don't know if they'll be a huge favorite over UAB.
Well, Ken Pom has them winning that game by 12. It'll be somewhere around there.
He has them beating UAB by 12.
It'll be I'm sure they'll be around at least 10 probably. Probably be a double-digit favorite in that game.
I think they'll be a single-digit favorite, and I don't think they'll win by double digits if they win that game at all. I think UAB is going to be an obstacle. I really, because they have bigs. They have an inside game. It's going to be a challenge. But first things first, and that's Wichita State. Now, after those two games, Memphis goes to Tulane. That will wrap up January. That's on January 30th. Then they go to Rice, back home to play Tulsa, back home to play Temple in the rematch game. Then they go to South Florida. They still got to go to Wichita State. Florida Atlantic and Rice at home to finish up February. And then the 3 games in March before conference tournament play at UAB, at UTSA, hosting South Florida. So there's challenges. And I know people look at the conference and they shake their head, and yeah, and understandably so. These teams do not have good nets. There are bad losses when you lose, especially if you lose, God forbid, at home. But it's not easy to get up for every single game. You have to, or at least you have to try to. It's not easy. That's why I said well before the loss at Temple, you ain't going undefeated. Nobody. It's very rare you see a team run through a conference undefeated. Auburn right now is undefeated in the SEC. They're definitely losing. Now, I know there's a big difference between the SEC and the American, but still, it's all about you. It's all about your team. If your team is a superior team, like Memphis is to all these teams really in the league, it's all about the mental game. It's about getting up for the game, being healthy for the game. It's not just going out there and playing ball, because those teams certainly come in with a chip on their shoulder. They know where this league is. They know that more than likely it's a one-bid league unless somebody can win that conference tournament championship. And while I've always been a proponent of rewarding the regular season champion, I understand what the conference championships are all about. Hopefully for leagues, they're money makers, not always, but it's that second chance for all the teams. That second chance, and especially in the American. You win that, you're in. That's your second chance. That's a reprieve from what happened during the regular season.
It's your only chance for all the teams.
Well, it's not your only chance, because last year Memphis finished 7th in the league. So while we look at Memphis and go, yeah, they should win, doesn't mean they're going to win. And that's why, again, I love what Penny's doing with his team this week. Emphasizing. It's important to talk to your team and they know what game means what, instead of just throwing them all in a bag and saying, they're equal. The championship game of the Maui Invitational against Auburn. Sorry, big difference between that game and a game against, let's say, the Rice Owls. But you cannot allow your team to play to the level of that competition in the case of Rice or in the case of somebody that you're superior to. You have to be able to do whatever you can leading up to that game to get that team prepared mentally. It's not easy. It is not easy. I mean, go back to Memphis football. Again, it's a shame they didn't make the conference championship game. That was a huge disappointment. But it's pretty hard to go and run through the table and win all those games. And they didn't. Still got 11 wins, still finished nationally ranked in the coaches poll and the AP poll, still a successful season. But again, there's more of a emphasis on the Memphis men's basketball team winning this conference as opposed to the football team. The football team may have been, in the minds of a lot of people around here, the best, or should have won the championship. But there was some staunch competition. In this conference for basketball, not so much. That's why there's more emphasis on the Tigers needing to win this conference, and they should win this conference. But again, you can't just roll out the ball and you're going to win automatically. That's why, again, him emphasizing this week, this is where we separate, right? Let's make no bones about it. Let's take care of business. Let's beat the hell out of these two teams. Can Memphis put their foot on the throat of these opponents if they get them down? And that's what you want to hope for if you're a Memphis fan, is that they can start out well in games. And I know they've started to do better to start games off. They struggled earlier in the year. You're at home. Hopefully a good crowd for both these games. I think Sunday will be good. I know it's church day, but I think Sunday will be a pretty good crowd. It's before the championship games in the NFL. Thursday night, tomorrow night, again, hopefully a good crowd during the week, a little bit tougher. Work week, school night rather. Work night, but hopefully a good crowd. Because they play off that energy. The players talk about that all the time. Playing off that energy. Okay. So that's tomorrow night. We'll talk about Grizzlies basketball in our next segment as they are back on the hardwood tonight at FedEx Forum to take on the Hornets. But yesterday it was the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame induction class being announced. And I know for some people they don't care. I love this. I just love the Baseball Hall of Fame. We already knew that Dave Parker had been voted in. I think the Veterans Committee or one of those other committees that they've created. Dick Allen posthumously will go in. Two big sluggers. So yesterday it was a matter of whether or not Billy Wagner in his final year of eligibility, his 10th year of eligibility, would get in, and could somebody like Andrew Jones or Carlos Beltran get in. Ichiro and CC Sabathia were no-brainers. The question for Ichiro was, would he be unanimous? Would he be the second unanimous player to go in to Cooperstown behind Mariano Rivera? Ichiro got 99.7% of the vote. So one Jack, you know what, didn't vote him in. I think you need to reveal your vote, and I know it's your prerogative. You can do whatever the hell you want. But how in your right mind, unless there's a prejudice or a grudge or something, or one of those idiots that say, well, I can never elect anybody in the first, shut up. How you didn't vote Ichiro is beyond me. Think about that. You have a ballot. You could pick up the 10 players, and there's Ichiro for what he did in Major League Baseball, aside from what he did in Japan. Gets every single vote. Every one of the voters voted for him except for one person. Now remember, Derek Jeter missed by a perfect ballot by one. Could it be the same person? Please, I need to know. Bob Costas needs to know. If you watched the broadcast yesterday on Major League Baseball Network, there's a lot of people that want to know. How can you be this asinine?
It is what it is. They can vote for who they want to vote for.
Take their vote away. Sorry. If you're that stupid,
never know who it was.
If you're that stupid, take the vote away. Or maybe you're prejudiced. Maybe you're prejudiced against a Japanese player. What else could it be? How can you sit there with your knowledge of baseball, and I assume you have the knowledge of baseball or you wouldn't have a vote, and come to the conclusion that Ichiro is not getting my vote for the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. And we'll probably never know. We'll probably never know who the voter was.
Chicken crap. I want to cuss so bad. That's what they are. If you don't want to reveal yourself, come out. It's like social media. The aliases and stuff. Put your name up there. Show a real picture of who you are. Come on, if you want to go ahead and bellyache and complain, show who you are. Be a man. My gosh, how does he not get 100% of the vote? CC Sabathia gets in, certainly deserving. In his first opportunity, he got, 86%? Somewhere in that neighborhood?
Yeah, almost 87%.
Billy Wagner gets in. Again, it's weird that, his first year, he's not Hall of Fame worthy. Second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, eighth year, ninth year. He missed by 5 votes last year? He gets in. And how great was that interview that they did with Billy Wagner? He just broke down. So emotional. His numbers, were way better than what I thought they were. The way they talked about historically, it's mind-boggling. I didn't know he was that good. Carlos Beltran got 70%. He probably would have gotten in if it were not for the whole trash can controversy, the whole thing with the Astros. I think he'll get in probably next year. Some people didn't vote. Verducci, I think, said that he didn't vote for him this time around because of that. It's like his punishment.
Him and Andrew Jones are both probably going in next year.
Yeah, Andrew Jones got 66% of the vote. Who else will be new on the ballot next year that has a chance? I haven't seen it.
There's not like Ryan Braun's a first time, but I can't imagine with his steroid past that he will get in. Certainly not on the first ballot. And can't remember who else. There's not really any first ballot guys next year, certainly that are no-brainers. Probably nobody that will even get in on the first ballot.
Yeah, they were talking about from this year, Chase Utley moved up a little bit, that he has a chance. I think they're a little naive when they say that these guys are going to take that leap from like 32% or 34 all the way to 75. I don't think it's happening. So I think you're right. I think next year we're probably looking at a two-man class plus what the veterans end up doing, Beltran and Jones. But again, Ichiro, Sabathia, Billy Wagner joined Dave Parker and Dick Allen posthumously in the class of 2025 Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Good stuff. Except for the dude who did not vote for Ichiro for some reason. Good stuff, great stuff at Corky's. Corky's Ribs and Barbecue for lunch later today, for dinner tonight. This weekend, thinking of bringing the family somewhere to eat. Why not Corky's? 4 locations, Poplar Avenue in Memphis, Poplar Avenue in Collierville, Germantown Parkway in Cordova, and Goodman Road in Olive Branch. When you head over for lunch or dinner, you get your entree at a third of a rack of ribs for just $7.99. Split it among your family, or get a couple of those thirds of a rack of rib. It just makes sense, right? You're getting a great deal, and you're getting a chance to taste those ribs if you haven't done so before. But that's for everything, right? You can get an entree, meaning a barbecue sandwich. You can get the award-winning catfish plate. You can get a tamale, and then add that third of a rack of ribs for just $7.99. They got lunch specials every day. Party packs start at just $7.49. Dine in. You can go through that no-contact delivery drive-through. You can have any of the services delivered to your home or office. And then there's catering. It's a whole different ballgame at Corky's. They have catered some of the biggest events you'll ever see. They could do so no matter what size that event may be. Whatever it is, you need to contact Corky's for catering. They've been catering as long as they've been in existence, which is 4 decades. They also have a private party room at both the Cordova and the Olive Branch locations. So a birthday party, anniversary, family reunion, whatever the case may be, you can get that private party room and reserve it. All you need to do is give them a call and tell them what date you're looking for, what time you're looking for. They'll take care of it for you. It's Corky's Ribs and Barbecue, open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week. We'll talk some Grizzlies when we return. You're tuned into Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
You get the best of Memphis for lunch and dinner at Elwood Shack. Choose from house pastrami, corned beef, smoked turkey, roast beef, roast pork, beef brisket, and pulled shoulders, all made in-house. Elwood's fresh baked bread is delivered daily from the bakery in Cordova, and all Elwood's cakes and sweet treats come from Frost Bakery. Open daily for lunch and dinner at Elwood Shack on summer in the Lowe's parking lot. And the newest Elwood's at 4040 Park across from the New Ribbon. Get the best of Memphis or anywhere else at Elwood Shack.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Consult a doctor prior to use.
Wow, you look amazing. What have you been doing? I'm sure you've heard of Ozempic, Wegovy, and the other GLP-1 medications, right? Well, I found this great company called Zelfie. If you qualify, their providers can prescribe medications like Ozempic and Wegovy and other GLP-1 medications that are 80 to 90% less expensive, all 100% online. I can get GLP-1 medications for 80 to 90% less and do it all online? No doctor's office or pharmacy? Yes, Zelfie can provide semaglutide or tirzepatide, the active ingredients in Ozempic and other expensive GLP-1s, but for 80 to 90% less and shipped directly to your door. How do I get started with Zelfie? Just send them a text.
Text CARE to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie. Get the same active ingredients in Wegovy or Ozempic, but for 80 to 90% less and 100% online. Don't wait. Text CARE to 200-300 right now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text CARE to 200-300. That's CARE to 200-300. CARE to 200-300.
All 650 acquisition fee, 20,000 miles per year, 20 cents excess mileage, EV6, 36-month lease, RU6, 21,425, 36-month lease, MSRP 55,820, K4 SEO 64,461, MSRP 24,715, Telluride SG 596,204, MSRP 41,060, includes all rebates and incentives, must finance through KFA, excludes tax title license with approved credit, dealer stock only, see dealer for complete details, offer valid through 131/24.
I got Jeff Allen on the line. He's doing numbers I've never heard of before at Gossen Kia South on Mount Moriah.
Randy, when's the last time you heard of a new ride at $163 a month with electric EPA range of Estimate 310? I got it in a 2024 Kia EV6 $63.96 due at signing, 36-month lease. Or a 2025 K4 GT Line, $206 a month, $34.99 due at signing, 24-month lease. 2025 Telluride S front-wheel drive, $398 per month, $39.99 due at signing, 24-month lease.
And every Gossett Kia comes with Kia's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty.
So whether you live in Horn Lake, South Haven, Olive Branch, or Memphis, you'll be happy at Gossett Kia on Mount Moriah.
Now back to Sports 56 Mornings. Good morning on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Shane texted, he says they should vote on who gets votes for the Hall of Fame. But then if you don't like that vote, then you got to have a vote on who votes on who votes. And if you don't like that vote, then you got to vote on who votes on who votes on who votes.
I just think
So
you need to have transparency. So you have to reveal your vote. There are some things that are voted on that you have to do that.
Here, and again, do I think it's dumb that somebody didn't vote for Ichiro? Yeah, obviously Ichiro is clearly a Hall of Famer, deserves all of the votes. Do I care who didn't vote for him? I guess it'd be interesting to know. But in the end, he got in. Like he's
know,
in the Hall of Fame.
I
So
know, but
who cares if they're unanimous or not?
Don't you want to know the reasoning? Because if you go back in the history of Major League Baseball, and probably other sports as well, there was obviously prejudices and biases, right? Whether it be because of the color of the skin of the athlete or because the voter, usually back in the day, the writer, the baseball writer, was rubbed the wrong way by somebody. Maybe they didn't do an interview when they asked for an interview to be done. There was always reasons why. Now, there were some people that obviously that were pure with their vote. It didn't matter if there were any personal things. They voted for somebody who deserved to be in. Ichiro, there's no question, right? Nobody's questioning whether he deserves to be in, and nobody's questioning whether he deserves to be in on the first ballot. So I would like to know, I don't care who it is, I want to know what the reason is. What is the reason? What could possibly be the reason? I forgot he was on the ballot. Okay, that didn't happen. He started in Japan. What? The only other thing I can think of, and you hate to bring this up, is the guy is prejudiced. He's a Japanese player. There's never been a Japanese player. Now there is in the Hall of Fame. I don't know. You tell me. He wasn't a power hitter? God bless. Please. I want to know the reason. I'm curious.
We don't know the reason for any of these guys that haven't in the past.
Right, in baseball. But again, there are some...
And if you do, so you know the reason. Okay, well, you're just going to get worked up about it. Like, who cares? It's a voter whatever reason it is, who cares? Ichiro's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, if you knew what it was, the truth, you could take away that person's vote.
Say he just says, I didn't want to vote for him. You going to take away his vote?
Yeah, I would.
So everybody that doesn't vote for somebody you think they should have voted for, you take away their vote?
No, but something as obvious as this.
Okay, but there's been one unanimous guy entire. So you can go back and find everybody who didn't vote for all those guys.
No, I'm not talking about past. I'm going moving forward. Moving forward, let's make it transparent. Let's see what everybody did with their vote. Why not? There should be more transparency in everything.
Again, if you make it transparent, but the guy just says, if he just literally says, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
Then I would say whoever are the people that are in control of who gets votes, I would say, you're an idiot. Thank you for participating. We're moving on to somebody else.
Okay, but then what if, like, the people that didn't vote for CC Sabathia, he's not obvious enough?
No, he's not.
I mean, he got 86% of the vote.
Yeah, he's not obvious first ballot, absolute 100%. He's not Ichiro.
There might be a bunch of guys who thought he was an obvious choice.
I don't know.
We'll
agree to disagree.
Where's the cutoff? 92%. Anybody that didn't vote for that guy?
We'll agree to disagree.
Taking away their vote?
No. I mean, this one was as obvious.
How many votes can it be?
I don't know. I just know that this person's an idiot.
Like Ken Griffey Jr., I think, missed 3 votes. All 3 of those guys should have their votes taken away?
No.
Well, why 1 Ichiro but not 3 Ken Griffey Jr.'s?
because this person, in my opinion, is doing something that is not baseball related. There is something that's going on.
Why wouldn't you assume that with Ken Griffey Jr.?
I don't know. But I wouldn't. One vote.
So it's only one vote. If it's only one vote, we'll take away the vote.
It's pretty obvious. They make a big deal about the Derek Jeter. They don't make a big deal about anybody else, from Hank Aaron to Ted Williams to Mickey Mantle. Because I think back in the day,
most of those guys didn't even get 90% of the vote.
Yeah, because a lot of it was voters who would not vote anybody in on the first ballot. For whatever reason, they wouldn't do that. Number two, absolutely prejudices. Number three, they were rubbed the wrong way by that particular athlete, by that particular baseball player in this case. Number four, they never got these one-on-one interviews that they wanted to do. It was always on the voters. It was on mainly those writers. And yes, if I could get to the bottom of that stuff, if I was the one in power, I would take away their vote. I would give it to somebody else. But that's just me. I think it's asinine. And I'd like to know the reasoning why. All right, we've talked too much about this. We're up against a break. When we come back, we'll open up hour number 2 talking Grizzlies. Interesting video I watched yesterday online. Now, it's not going to happen. I understand it's not going to happen. And there was a deal in the NBA yesterday that involved draft picks that probably positions Phoenix now to maybe make that deal for Jimmy Butler. However, Bobby Marks, well-respected, now with ESPN, former front office guy in the NBA, and Kevin O'Connor were talking about several teams, and one of the teams they emphasized was the Memphis Grizzlies and how close the Grizzlies are, and that the Grizzlies should be taking a swing to win it all this year, which is, what I've talked about to some degree. We will discuss that when we return to open up hour number 2. Then Jerry Palm at 8:25. Jerry's got some splaining to do. He dropped Memphis 2 lines in his latest bracketology after their loss at Temple. Folks, the best thing about a new year is getting something new to drive. So it makes sense to head to Olive Branch, to All-Star Chevrolet, where all those new Silverados are. Get $1,500 in extra savings when you trade in a 2011 or newer passenger car or light-duty truck. 1.9% financing on new Blazers, 2.9% with no payments for 90 days on a new Equinox. And yes, you can be payment-free until April because your good credit deserves it. If you work in law enforcement, you're a first responder, you work in the healthcare field, you're a military member, education, meaning you're a teacher, a recent graduate, you get another $500 off. So let's go. Nobody has the certified and the pre-owned like All-Star Chevrolet. So if you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, it makes sense to check out what they have to offer at All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch. Everything from the pre-owned Silverados, Sierra trucks, Nissans, Toyotas, Fords, Jeeps. They even got a beautiful red Corvette Stingray in Olive Branch. If you've got any vehicle you want to sell, you bring it to All-Star Chevrolet in Olive Branch, you'll get the most money back for it today. So together, let's drive the All-Star Chevy's Fresh Start Sale. It's going on right now in Olive Branch. You can check out these great vehicles online at allstarautogroup.com. Hour 2 on the way. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
The 36th annual January sale going on now at Sunrise Buick GMC of Wolfcase. Didn't get what you wanted for the holidays? That's okay. Now's the time to take care of you. Are you 100% happy with your holiday? Now's the time to get you. Huge rebates, big discounts, low interest rates,
you to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Goodman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate. Owners Timmy and Rebecca Jenkins say hello to Sports 56 fans and look forward to your business.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. An accident out here. It's westbound Billmore Parkway. Just before you get to Forest Hill, Irene, it's going to slow down that traffic coming in from Collierville right now towards Memphis on Billmore Parkway going westbound. It's picked up a little bit more volume over here on I-40 westbound as you work your way past Sycamore View Road. Weimer's Jewelry, located 7525 Highway 64, is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis with John Harden. Weekdays from 11 to 1. Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers. Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
8:01 the time, hour number 2 here on Sports 56 Mornings, the Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 edition. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Seegers with you from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure, 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40. Currently 15 degrees, a whole 15 degrees. 36 for your high today, mostly sunny skies. Then tonight, we'll have clear skies, 23 for a low. Your Thursday looks to be a bit warmer, 45 for your high after 24 degrees. Your overnight low with mostly sunshiny skies. James Gaddis Jewelers, second hour sponsor of Sports 56 Mornings, 4900 Poplar Avenue between Mendenhall and St. Nick. On the web at gaddisjewelers.com. If you're getting engaged in 2025, you need to make sure James Gaddis Jewelers is one of the jewelers you visit. They have a price point to suit everyone's budget. In other words, you're looking for $1,500, $2,000 diamond ring. You're looking for a $50,000 diamond ring. Whatever the case may be, they have those rings for you. Beautiful engagement rings, wedding rings, personally designed wedding sets. But, maybe you're just looking for a beautiful watch. They have all types, including those pre-owned Rolexes, gemstones of all types, bracelets, necklaces, earrings, pendants. They also have the one-of-a-kind estate and vintage jewelry. And they're always adding to their collection, so I can guarantee you every time you go in there, you're going to see something you didn't see the previous time you were there. They are full-service jewelers with 2-bench jewelers ready to serve you. So if you need a simple cleaning or a resetting of your rock, whatever the case is, they can take care of it for you. James Gaddis Jewelers, 4900 Poplar between Mendenhall and St. Nick, and on the web at gaddisjewelers.com. So the Grizzlies are back in action tonight as they host the Hornets. The Grizzlies come in at 28-15. And now just a half game behind the Rockets for second in the West. The Hornets are 11-28. After the game tonight against the Hornets, the Grizzlies will be back in action on Friday. They will take on the Pelicans. The Pelicans are 12-32. And then Saturday night, they will host the Utah Jazz, who are 10-31. So you are talking about the third worst team record-wise in the East and the 2 worst teams record-wise in the West. At home, Memphis should be winning those games.
Yeah, just like the Tigers. I mean, when you have these teams coming into your building, you have to win. There is no excuse to lose to these teams in your home building, especially if you are what you believe you are and where the standings would tell you that you are right now. Like, these are games you can't afford to lose in the standings. So, yeah, this is a week where there should be a whole bunch of wins down at FedEx Forum for both the Grizzlies and the Tigers.
And a good chance that you may end up by the week's end, I should say, which will include the weekend game Saturday. You will probably find yourself in second place. I mean, depending obviously on what the Rockets end up doing, but there's a good chance because you should be able to take care of business. Now, while the Grizzlies are going good right now, the injury report, Jake LaRavia, I think, will miss the game tonight. I think he's out. And
maybe he's doubtful. I think.
Is he doubtful or is he out?
I don't remember what they listed him as.
Yeah, I thought they said out, and I believe is it Kennard on the injury list? Questionable.
It is LaRavia doubtful.
Doubtful.
Kennard is probable.
Okay, Kennard probable. So again, you have the bulk of your guys. They're getting healthier. And now there's the talk, which has been going on for a month now, about adding. Do you add to your team? The team's doing well right now. So I listened to this podcast yesterday, part of the podcast, with Kevin O'Connor. He had Bobby Marks on, and they were talking about the Grizzlies, among other teams. And they both said that the Grizzlies basically should be swinging for the fences and should be swinging for Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler reportedly came out and said he's not interested in going to Memphis because Memphis is not looking at signing him to a long-term deal. He's got a lot left on his contract for next year, which I believe is a player option. I'm not one in that camp, and I know many are not, but their rationale was very interesting. They talked about this team and how good they are, that if they can land that type of player, that they could be the NBA champs. But they don't feel that they can be right now where they are. They're really, really good, but they don't think. They think they're missing that one player, that extra player to go along with Ja, Dez, and Tripp. And what they said was with Memphis having all their draft picks, having some of these players who are very solid, but they're depth players, that they're expendable. They talked about maybe trading a Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, and picks to try to get Jimmy. But, again, I'm not a big fan of rent a player, especially if that player really has no intention to come here. Now, if it's because that player's not going to get a long-term deal from that organization, okay, that's one thing. The other thing would be if that player just doesn't want to come because they don't like Memphis. The point they were making was, why is Phoenix going to try to – what is it going to do for Phoenix? They were talking about aging Kevin Durant and that Phoenix is already behind the eight ball, that they don't believe he can take them to an NBA championship. But they believe that why aren't you swinging for the fences? Because this one player – whether you have him for 3 months or whatever, could be the difference maker in winning it all. Now, Phoenix yesterday made a trade. They traded their 2031 first rounder to the Utah Jazz for 3 first-round picks. So the Suns are positioning themselves to make a run. It's going to take multiple teams to pull off that deal if they still are interested, and it seems like they are, in Jimmy Butler. So there's two things going on here, Eli. Obviously, there's Phoenix trying to take those steps closer to making that deal happen, which I think there's a good chance it could. And then there's the Grizzlies, which I don't think any way in hell there's going to be a deal. But it's interesting when you got a guy like Bobby Marks, who's a very intelligent guy, and Kevin O'Connor is an NBA guy, both saying that the Grizzlies should be going after him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of reporting believes that the Bucks are going to be involved in that trade, that they'll probably end up with Bradley Beal. They'll send Chris Middleton out. Butler goes to Phoenix. Middleton to Miami. Beal to Milwaukee. There will be some other team probably involved that has cap space that could take on some salary and do some things to make all of that work amongst those teams. I've said all along, I don't want Jimmy Butler here because Jimmy Butler is not going to want to be here. We've seen numerous times what Jimmy Butler will do in a locker room where he's not happy. So I don't see why you would possibly, if you're the Grizzlies, want to make a move for Jimmy Butler, nor do I ever think it would even be a possibility to make a move and then get Jimmy Butler. But all of the other stuff is all the other stuff that I've said. Yeah, I do. I just believe Cam Johnson is that guy. And Cam Johnson is making half the money that Jimmy Butler is, less than half the money. and you'd actually have him for a couple more years, unlike Jimmy Butler. But yeah, again, as I've said all the time, I'll get worse 9 through 13 to get better 1 through 8. Mm-hmm. And it's dumb not to do that. You've got all of these assets, first round picks that, I mean, quite frankly, if barring something crazy like last year, those first round picks are going to be late first round picks. Now the Grizzlies have had success picking late in the first round, but those are first round picks that are easily expendable. And then just sort through the guys and see who Brooklyn would want. And I've said it many times. I believe the Grizzlies have as many assets or more assets than any team in the league to get a deal done because of guys that have proven they can play at the NBA level plus draft capital. And so, in Jimmy Butler, never thought there was I thought it was a 0.0% chance of ever possibly happening. Still believe that. And I wouldn't want him anyway, because again, if he's not happy, he will blow up the locker room in a heartbeat. Get somebody that would want to be here and who makes this team better. And I just think Cam Johnson is that guy.
Well, I agree with you 100% about Butler. That's why I was blown away that Bobby Marks said that. Now, his point about swinging for the fence, I understand that because I kind of live by that mantra. Why wouldn't you? If you are on the cusp, Oklahoma City, they're talking about possibly acquiring Cam Johnson. Oklahoma City is the best team in the West right now. They're getting Holmgren back. Could you imagine Cam Johnson? Katie bar the door. It's over. It's over. So not only do you have to be offensive, aggressive in making a move, you have to be almost defensive as well, where you got to prevent somebody in your conference from getting that person. It doesn't mean you make a stupid deal just to make a deal. But if there's a deal to be made and it's going to help you out, you make that deal. You have to be aggressive. And I'm sure that they are behind the scenes. And Butler to Phoenix, like those guys did say, I believe they're right that we're not going to see this drastic change and all of a sudden Phoenix is going to be the team to beat in the West. I don't think so. But to your point about Butler, yeah, it just doesn't seem like, even though there's a possibility that he could take you over the top for a championship, that it will be kumbaya. I don't know. Butler's kind of a strange cat. He can help you. He's really good. Obviously, he's had some injuries of late. But if he's mentally shot, not into it, then you've wasted a move. As far as the expendable players, they have a number of them. I don't know how attractive they are to a Nets team. I've seen some of the other possible package deals from other teams that could be in the Cam Johnson sweepstakes, and there are a number of teams that have been mentioned that their assets look better, quite frankly. But Memphis can load up. Obviously, those draft picks are not going to be high draft picks, but I don't know what the Nets want. And then there's always the whole Dorian Finney-Smith thing that we've read about. I don't know how much truth there is to it, that they were disgruntled with something that happened with the Grizzlies. Maybe they thought that deal was going to happen with the Grizzlies, and something was pulled or wasn't added or was said it was going to. I don't know. Nobody knows unless you got inside information with Kleiman and company. But again, that report was out there that they thought the Nets were rubbed the wrong way by the Grizzlies. Are they going to be less apt to make a deal with the Grizzlies for Cameron Johnson? And again, how much does Zach Kleiman want to pull the trigger? And when it comes to a big trade, he just doesn't make them. It doesn't mean he won't, but he just doesn't make them. But the question I would ask, and I'm sure they ask themselves as well, is, are we good enough to win it all right now? With the team we have, are we good enough to win it all? I think it's a very good team. Are they good enough to win it all? No, I don't believe they are. I don't believe they are. I don't think they have enough up front that would be able to challenge, whether it be Holmgren, Hartenstein, and those bigs at Oklahoma City. We'll see about Şengün. They did better in the last game they played against him, but he crushed them 2 games ago when Memphis met Houston. There's a couple of others. Jokic. Now, how do you slow down Jokic? So there's questions. Now, Cam Johnson doesn't help you on the front line, but he helps you everywhere else. So I don't know. I just the history of the Grizzlies and the way I feel about Zach Kleiman is he's less apt to pull off a major deal. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he does so. But I know they got to be asking that question, and I would think coming to the same conclusion that we are really, really good, but in our heart of hearts, I don't know if we can win it all. And that's the only question you need to ask and answer.
Yeah, I think they are. If things went perfectly and all that in the playoffs, could they? I think they could contend with what they are right now. But I think if you add Cam Johnson to this starting lineup, I think it's as good as any starting 5 in the NBA.
Do you think they have enough with the bigs?
Yeah, I think. With what they have right now, again, I think they are. I wouldn't say there's no way they could win a title with what they have right now. I think they are one of the teams that would be in the conversation. It'd be difficult. Again, things would have to go perfectly for them. And all that in the playoffs. It's going to be hard to beat at Oklahoma City 4 out of 7 times what they currently have. But again, we see all the time injuries happen, things happen in the postseason. Who knows? And so you don't know what's going to happen to yourself or other teams in the postseason. But I'd think, again, with a Cam Johnson, because I don't care about the depth in the postseason. Give me the best 7 or 8 guys that I could possibly have, and let's go to battle with them. Again, the Grizzlies have never been healthy in the postseason. They've never had their guys in the postseason. So it's we don't know for sure what they are in the postseason with this group actually together. So even if they don't make a move, hopefully at least this group can be healthy. And I'm talking about the main guys. Don't lose Ja for a game or Desmond for a game or Jaren for a game or whatever. Actually go through the postseason with your guys healthy and see how you stack up against the rest of the West.
Good luck with that. Track record obviously is not good, but doesn't mean it can't happen. Now, you also have to integrate the return of Marcus Smart, which has not been a success to this point. He hasn't been on the floor that much. Vince Williams, he coming back, I would assume, if he stays healthy when he comes back, he's part of the rotation. Who's out? So those things have to be rectified as well before the postseason. You need to know what you have, and hopefully they get to that point. Taylor was talking about that the other day. About having that depth. It's a great thing to have the depth. It is. It is more a positive than it is a negative. But it can be a negative if you have everybody and then you're trying to mix and match and make everybody happy and you're trying to get these guys in. Who's going to be out of the rotation? I think everybody's curious to see what's going to happen then. And we're getting probably closer and closer, right, to the return, the second return this year of Vince Williams, and then the return of Marcus Smart.
And I'll say, I know a lot of people don't like Marcus Smart or would love to see them move on from Marcus Smart because of all the injuries. And yes, obviously the injuries suck and he hasn't been on the court. I want Marcus Smart here for a playoff run. I think Marcus Smart could be very valuable in the postseason. Now, obviously, again, he has to be healthy to make that happen. But I'm hoping that there is a healthy Marcus Smart here. I'm not just looking to unload Marcus Smart somewhere.
Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. That's why we were all excited when they made the trade.
I would love the Cam Johnson deal without using Marcus Smart because I would love Cam Johnson. I want Marcus Smart here coming off the bench in the postseason. I think he could be a valuable leader in the postseason.
But if you have to make the deal with Smart, you'd make it.
Yes, if that's the only way. I don't even think Marcus Smart would be I don't think Marcus Smart would be what they would be looking for. So, it's the big contract. But if it was an expiring deal, I could see certainly they would want it. But it's not expiring after this year. So I don't think that he would be something that Brooklyn would be like, we got to have him in that deal.
We are only halfway through the season, but can you say yet whether or not the pick of Zach Edey was a good pick? Is the jury still out?
I think it's,
you like the pick?
I think it is what I said at the time. I think it's a fine pick. There are other guys I would have taken, but I think it is a fine pick, and it has been a fine pick. There are games where it looks too fast for him, and he struggles. There are other games when, with the right matchups, he does the things that you said, oh, yeah, that's what Zach Edey can do. Like, he's a big old dude in the middle of the lane who'll get some rebounds, block some shots, but he gets in a pick and roll, and it gets to be an issue at times when teams can get him into matchups. So he hasn't been terrible by any means. He hasn't been great. He has been a fine pick. And again, when you look at what the rest of this rookie class is doing, like, he certainly has been a fine pick.
Yeah, I think he's at times looks great, and other times he looks completely lost. I think you're right about what we said yesterday. You said that you thought the mask may have affected him in the last game, the Monday game. I think you're right, because he bobbled more balls than, there were so many times that either he got the ball inside or got a rebound and put it on the floor or just had it in his hand, and it wasn't so much that it was knocked out of his hand, it's that he bobbled it. Like, he couldn't put it away. And I'm not sure if that wasn't because of that mask affecting him. He's got pretty decent hands. I'm not saying he's got the greatest hands in the world, but it's not Roberto Duran, hands of stone. He has good hands. And he was bobbling every single thing on Monday.
Calvin says, serious question, why are we fussing about the roster at this point if we haven't seen it whole yet? Well,
you're trying to improve. You're looking at ways maybe to improve the roster.
Exactly what I said earlier. I don't care about 9 through 13. Some of these guys, I want the best 7 or 8 guys. That's all. That's why I like getting all these guys back. Like, I know everybody loves Gigi being back. Gigi's not one of the best 7 guys on this team or 8 guys on this team. Like, Gigi, to me, in the playoffs, not playing. Shouldn't be.
All right, who's playing 7 or 8 guys? Everybody's healthy. Who's playing?
Well, you got Ja, Desmond, Jaren. Again, if I have my way, Cam Johnson. And then Zach Edey.
Okay.
Brandon Clark. Marcus Smart. Vince Williams.
That's 8.
That's probably it. And Santi's like the next guy.
You wouldn't play Santi in your rotation?
Again, you're probably going to go 9 in that, but he's the 9th guy.
So
him and Vince are 8, 9.
So Scotty's not getting any minutes.
God, no. In the playoffs,
it seems like he always wants to put him in for some minutes. And when Ja's been out, Scotty's done a good job.
Here recently, we've seen a lot less of Scotty. It's been more Kennard in there with Desmond as the point guard.
Right, but he still gets him in there.
Scotty dribbles way too much.
He had 12 guys in on Monday. And I think they all played in the first half. Like 12 dudes played. And again, and so that's why we're talking about it. We're also talking about it because if a move is made, who's expendable? I'm sure there's a number of guys who are expendable, but what kind of moves would be made? Obviously, Konchar's on the trading block. They would have no problem dealing. I hate to say it, BC would probably be in a trade. Laravia possibly, and Laravia took a step up this year. He has done a fine job. And then who knows about Marcus Smart? That would be the curious situation whether or not they would move him in a trade if it betters the team when we still haven't really seen Marcus Smart for any sustained period of time, what he can add to this team. We know how good a player he is, but whether he's that player on this team, we really have never found out to this point because he hasn't been out there on the floor. All right, when we come back, Jerry Palm. His latest bracketology, he dropped Memphis a couple of slots. We'll talk about that and everything in college basketball. Get his thoughts also on the wrap-up of the college football season and the national championship with Ohio State knocking off Notre Dame. That's all coming up next. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and
Gun is the largest indoor range in the Mid-South, but size isn't their only difference. Top Gun has the best instructors with over 300 years combined experience and classes all the way from first shot to master marksmanship. Plus, Top Gun is affordable. Gold membership is just $48 a month. That's just $1.60 a day for a limited range time. Free gun rentals with purchase of ammo and members lounge access. Top Gun 2770 Whitten Road and TopGunMemphis.com. Always ship with the best. Top Gun Memphis.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a Mother Pheasant Plucker, I plug Mother Pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Fiveash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Fiveash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or MemphisRoofer.com.
Fiveash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you. For 75 years, Americans have been falling in love with Volkswagen, and we gossip Volkswagen Germantown. Hey, what's up over there, Marty McMahon?
New Year means big savings. Take your pick lane from a 2025 Jetta Sport or 2024 Volkswagen Taos SE, $249 a month.
Jetta or Taos, $249 a month. What else you got?
2024 Tiguan S or 2025 Jetta SE, $279 a month.
Tiguan S or Jetta SE, $279 a month?
That's right. And all 2024 Atlas SEL Peak Edition, $5,000 off MSRP.
So get to Gossip Volkswagen Germantown and ask for Marty McMahon.
Remember, your future is what you make it.
That's Gossip Volkswagen Germantown, 7420 Winchester Road. Online, GossipVWG.com.
Good morning. Still a little bit slow from that earlier wreck out of Collierville on Billmores Parkway westbound, just before Forest Hill Irene. And they're wrapping up this wreck over here on 40 westbound, right near Sycamore View Road. It's had traffic a little bit slow in that area as it finally starts to pick up from Germantown Parkway westbound on I-40 there all the way up to Sycamore View Road. Weimer's Jewelry, conveniently located 7525 Highway 64, is your Valentine's Day headquarters. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
Diamonds are forever.
Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everybody. Jerry Palm joins us in just a moment. We got some NFL talk, some coaching news coming up later on in the hour, and then in hour 3 to Michael Cole at 9:05 on the Grizzlies. Parthu Pajai at 9:25 on the Memphis Tigers. But time right now to talk with JP.
It's time for Sports 56 Mornings Weekly Chat with Jerry Palm, college football and basketball writer and bracketologist for CBSSports.com. Here are Greg, Eli, and Jerry.
He is Jerry Palm, CBS Sports, CBSSports.com. He joins us every single Wednesday during both the college basketball, college football seasons. You can follow him on Twitter at JPPalmCBS. JP, how are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm tired, man. It's cold here. It's 14 degrees.
How cold is it?
14.
Ooh. Yeah. We've started the day below zero the last 2 days. Didn't get above zero 2 days ago. We did crack zero yesterday. So, I feel your pain.
Could be worse. They got 4 to 6 inches in New Orleans, which is just unheard of.
Oh, yeah. I don't even, they probably don't even know what to do with that, I'm sure.
I was telling Eli, he hadn't seen the video. I don't know if you've seen this video on social media. The dude's out there on Canal Street. He's playing hockey. He's just like skating around with his stick, and you hear the clang of the puck against the stick. It's just, man, oh man, what the heck is going on in this world? But anyway,
yeah.
We got a lot
I was
to talk about.
on the radio in Mobile, Alabama yesterday where they were expecting 5 inches of snow. I said, just grab a shovel and some salt, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
They don't have any salt there. They don't have. No, the only salt
table
they have.
Salt.
Yeah, that's what they have. No shovels.
They don't have proper salt.
I'm sure they don't have a salt truck, for goodness sakes. All right, before we talk bracketology, and Jerry's latest went up on Monday, so you can check it out at CBSSports.com. Before we talk college hoops, let's finish up with college football. The national championship game on Monday went the way of Ohio State, as most people felt it would. But, boy, give Notre Dame credit, because when it got to 31-7, it looked like it may end up 55-7. They battled back and at least made it interesting.
Yeah, well, that's what they've done this whole tournament. They've been resilient. Now, obviously, Indiana, they spanked from the get-go, but all of their other games required some level of resiliency from them. And they've showed that. I mean, Notre Dame did not die easy in any of their games, and in fact, until the last one, not at all. So, you've got to give Notre Dame credit for the fight they showed throughout the entire playoff.
What's been the reaction up there where there's a lot of Notre Dame fans?
Well, I stay away from them mostly. I mean, they're proud of their team. I would say most of all, they're proud of their team. Mm-hmm. I think they knew, that was going to be an uphill battle against, the team that had been the best in the playoff so far. I mean, utterly dominant against Tennessee and Oregon. Ended up having to fight a little harder to beat Texas. But, that was the team. The best team in college football was the Ohio State team that beat Tennessee and the Ohio State team that beat Oregon. Mm-hmm. That was the best team in college football. So, I think Notre Dame fans were hoping for better, but I think mostly understand, how it went.
So Ryan Day got the last laugh, at least until next year's Ohio State-Michigan game.
Unless he takes an NFL job or something. Yeah. Right, until the Michigan game, because if he loses to Michigan again, then the whole thing just goes sideways.
Yeah, on fired.
Yeah. Because they care about that more than they care about winning national championships, apparently. Because, how many times can you beat Michigan? Well, so far it's 0, so that's not going to work. But if he goes to the NFL, and I haven't heard anything about him going to the NFL,
no.
I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think that's going to happen. But he doesn't have to play Michigan anymore. He might have to play Detroit, but he won't have to play Michigan.
Well, we've debated numerous times on this show about Ohio State and Michigan and that rivalry and the importance. And we know it's extremely important, and I know it's extremely important, but I'm sorry. They just won a national championship, and I listen to the Ohio State fans, and at least now, I mean, again, we get closer to Ohio State, Michigan next year, it'll be a different story. But right now, they're all saying, yes, we'd rather have the championship than having beaten Michigan, right? They lost to Michigan, but they got the championship. They got the chip.
That's because that's the one they do have. They don't have the other. If they had beat Michigan and lost the championship, they'd say, it doesn't matter that we lost the championship, we beat Michigan.
Well, that would be their excuse. That would be their
They
excuse.
lost both of them last year. Michigan ended up with both of them.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. But that's their excuse.
So this was a pretty miserable year up until, Monday night for Ohio State with Michigan holding both of those titles.
Exactly. Look, I understand rivalries. I mean, it makes sports to have great rivalries. But people are out of their minds if you would trade in a win over Michigan this year for the Natty. Nobody in their right mind would do that. The ultimate goal is to win it all. They want it all. Ryan Day made people eat their words. Again, until what happens next year, it's what have you done for me lately world. But good for him. Congratulations. And he got the job done. What did you think overall of the first ever 12-team college football playoff?
I really enjoyed it. The things that I thought I would like, I did. In particular, I was really excited about home games. And even though those games ended up not being competitive, it was fun to watch games played on home fields. I think the thing that I don't know how they fix, maybe they can't, or at least not in a way that there's just things that are conflicting interests, and that is the teams that get byes. They all lost, and 3 of them lost badly, and I just don't think that's much of an advantage. The NFL has the same system, by the way. Where champions get byes, and but those champions get a week off to recuperate from a long season, where they've played 16 games in 17 weeks. College football playoff byes, those teams are sitting around for a month. They play their championship game the first week of December, and it's January 1st or December 31st by the time they play again. That's a long time off. That's really too long off. And, you're practicing and you're having meetings, and you probably break for the holiday, and it's hard to maintain your focus for that long a period of time before you take the field again. I think we saw some of that in these bye games, but I don't know how you fix it, because the college football playoff wants these 6 big bowl games involved. Well, unless you you get them to move off their date, which they won't, or you do something. I don't understand how. I don't have a solution to keeping those games involved and creating a more fair playoff schedule for the teams that get by.
Well, but this year the problem was the teams that got the byes weren't the best teams. Like, if you get rid of that.
Well, 2 of them were.
Well, they were underdogs. Every one of them was an underdog.
Well, that's only because Oregon had to play Ohio State.
Well, I know, but again, Oregon would have had to play Ohio State if you would have had the best teams getting the bye. That's the whole.
They would have had to eventually, I suppose.
If you create the right system, if you get rid of the automatic for the champions and just say seed these teams and the top 4 seeded teams get the byes, we won't see all 4 of those teams lose.
Well, who was number 8
in
Ohio
this year?
State, right?
They were seeded.
Wasn't Ohio State
they were
number 8?
seeded 8.
They were seeded 8,
but
Notre
they
Dame
were
was
actually
seeded
number 6, I think, or
6.
5. I think they were 6.
They would have been 6,
yeah.
Right? So who would have been 8? Tennessee?
No, Tennessee would have been. Tennessee was 7, 8. I don't. The actual.
It would have been 7. Yeah, I think I got it in front of me.
But that's how confusing it was.
You would have had it probably would have been Boise. I think it might have been Boise. Would have been
8, maybe.
Do you think they'll tweak for 25, or just let 25 play out like 24, and then obviously get the new deal for 26 and beyond?
I think the only tweak that they could reasonably do would be what we just talked about, is the seeds.
Yeah.
I don't really think there's a whole lot of reason to do any other massive changes when you're just going to change it the year after anyway. But changing the seeding is an easy fix. I would say that's probably the way to go.
All right.
If they're gonna change something.
We were talking. Go ahead, Nino.
Actually, Indiana was the actual 8th ranked in the final. So it would have been the 4 byes would have been Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, and then so if the top seeds would have won in their home games, then the second round you would have had Notre Dame, Penn State, which we ended up getting anyway. You'd had Ohio State, Texas, which we got anyway. We had Tennessee, Georgia, and Indiana, Oregon.
And Tennessee, Georgia didn't happen in the regular season, did it?
Yeah.
Yes, it did. Yeah,
They played each other in the regular season?
Yes.
I was trying to remember.
And Georgia beat them.
And so that game had already happened once. So Indiana, Oregon would have been new. Even though they're in the same conference, Indiana didn't play. Ohio State played all of the other three top teams, but those three didn't play each other in the regular season.
Yes.
So
Yesterday on the show, Jerry, we had a texter ask about basically the fact that there's a Monday night national championship game, and we debated on, it's really impossible with the NFL to have it on a Saturday. I know, Eli, you like it. It would be better, you think, if it was on a Saturday. So I wanted to know, and we didn't have them yesterday, what the ratings were, because I would still believe that those numbers are really good for Monday night. Elijah, have you seen any ratings yet?
I'm looking it up, and I haven't been able to find ratings for the championship game, but the semifinals
I
is
haven't
down
seen them either.
17% from last year with an average of 19.2 million viewers.
You said the semis were down 17%?
With those two programs,
yes,
the ratings would be really good. Those two programs are about as good a draw as you can get.
Exactly.
So I'm expecting really good ratings for that for TV for that game.
Elijah said the semis were down 17%. Now down from last year's 4-team playoff. And then you had the Natty, so we'll see what they are. I would think, too, when you have the brands of Ohio State and Notre Dame, it's a Monday night, and I know it's a school night and a work night and all that, but
When
the game
were
started early enough.
The semifinals were played in bowl games, rotating basis. So they were played basically the same games at around the same time, right?
Well,
the
last year, the 7 and 14, they were New Year's Day. That's the thing. They're going to go down.
The quarterfinals were New Year's Day.
Yeah.
This year, so you'd have to compare the quarterfinals to the semifinals from last year because those are played at the same time. The semifinals this year are played when all the holidays are over, and you're competing probably somewhat with the NFL. So
exactly, and that's the argument. That's the
argument.
They
played the semifinals this year on a Thursday and Friday night versus playing them on New Year's Day last year.
Right.
Yeah, so they were going to be down no matter what, but it's just people were saying that there is a disconnect to some degree with the length of time in between when the regular season ended and now you finally have a national championship game this late. But I don't know what else you could do. And
that's another thing that falls victim to wanting to use the bowls as playoff games. So the 6 major bowls as playoff games is that you either have to move their dates, which the Rose Bowl will not participate before they move their date, and or you have to play the schedule that you just played. That's really it. If you're going to use the bowl games as playoff games, you really limit what you can do in terms of scheduling.
Yeah, I mean the New Year, they're always going to be a round of the tournament on New Year's Day.
Yeah, they're missing
that New Year's Day is
history.
too important to college football.
Exactly. College football and New Year's Day go together hand in hand. It should always be that way. All right, JP, let's pivot to basketball. I see that you dropped Memphis 2 lines. You had them 4. You have them now as a 6th seed. You got them in the Midwest right now. So the 1 loss to Temple on the road, a quadrant 2 loss, dropped them 2 seeds in your mind.
They were the last of the 4s, so it's, at least in terms of that 1 to 68 list, it's not as big of a drop as it looks like.
Okay,
but it was more than 4 spots. So they ended up 2 lines down because they were all. If you drop 5 spots, it's 2 lines from where they were. So it wasn't as big a drop in the bracket as on the S curve as it looks in the bracket, but that's just how it laid out.
With so many teams. Highly, tournament teams losing last week. Did it have a lot of shuffling, or because they all lost, it didn't really shuffle them that much?
Yeah, 6 of the top 8 lost, I think it was. 8 of the top 10, perhaps. Yeah, it was. When everybody loses, nobody loses, right? Sometimes, you can't drop all of them because the teams that they were above, there was still a gap, for some of those teams. And in fact, Iowa State stayed on the top line. And it also depends on who you lose to, the circumstances, or were you on the road, things like that, and how it compares to other teams. But, yeah, it's, when you have that level of chaos, you see less change than you possibly expect. Memphis is hurt by the fact that they lost to Temple, which, is probably the worst loss of most of those teams.
Yes.
And they were lower to begin with. But, and I think in their part of that part of the bracket, there were fewer teams losing. But, yeah, there was a lot of chaos in the bracket last week.
Do you see Memphis, with each loss, if it happens in the conference, dropping 2 lines?
Not necessarily, no. But the closer you get to the middle of the bracket, the closer together the teams are.
Mm-hmm.
So one loss can have a greater impact than if you're higher up the bracket to begin with. Because it's like a bell curve, So the teams in the middle are really about the same, and the teams on the ends are tend to be, significantly better than the others, and so one loss for them has less of an impact if you're on, one end of the bracket or the other.
How about if they went the other way and rattled off? What do they got left, Eli? 13 games. They're 4-1. They play 18 in the conference. Let's say it's not going to happen, but let's say they won 13 straight. I know it depends on everything else that's going on, but they could jump back up higher, right? I mean,
oh sure, yeah, they can move up. Yeah, they can move up. I guess the issue for them is, other than North Texas, who are you going to beat that's really helping you? What you're doing is you're avoiding. I mean, I'm looking at Memphis' schedule now. Everybody left on their schedule is a triple-digit net ranking, and the closest one is to the top 100 is Temple at 108. So, none of these teams are helping Memphis. Every loss to anybody in this group is going to hurt.
Yeah. Okay.
So it really depends on who you play, and they've already played North Texas. They don't get them back, so
they'll get Temple one more time, but that'll be at home.
Memphis' schedule is nothing but pitfalls.
Yeah, the conference schedule. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Where did you have Ole Miss had an interesting week because they go on the road, they beat Alabama, then they go on the road and they lose to Mississippi State, who's also a very good team, but it's not Alabama. Yeah. Where did you have Ole Miss last week, and I assume you moved them up?
Ole Miss, if you give me just 1 second, I can tell you exactly.
This week in your bracket.
That might be down. That's probably down. But I can find it in a minute if you just be patient with me.
Yeah, because right now,
Ole Miss was 3, and now they're a 4.
Okay, so they did fall despite the win at Alabama because of the loss to Mississippi State.
And what other teams did as well.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
So, Mississippi State moved past them. So that was one of the teams.
Okay. So they're both at 4s right now.
They're both 4s, yes.
But you're obviously in the 1-68. Mississippi State is ahead of them.
Right. Purdue jumped them. Kansas jumped them. And Michigan State jumped them.
Of course, Purdue lost last night.
And Purdue lost last night. Yeah. The Purdue was one on that. I was kind of wondering how all of this travel would affect some teams, and you've definitely seen that in the Big Ten, the coast-to-coast travel. So last week, Purdue went to Rutgers, came home for a game, went out to Washington, and then played Oregon in a classic old-school Big Ten rock fight. And then they come back, and Tuesday night they've got a home game, and you just watch that game in the second half, Purdue's got no leg at all.
That travel, right? We talked about it with the...
that was... And Ohio State, of course, took advantage of it. I mean, that's a good enough team to take advantage of the fact that Purdue couldn't hit anything other than Trey Kaufman ran in the lane, and it was just one of those things. So at least fortunately for Purdue, that's the first of 4 out of 5 at home, so they're not doing so much traveling the next few weeks. But that's a team that needs a day off.
Don't ask Mick Cronin about it.
No, I know. I have a feeling I think I know how he feels about it. I may have heard.
He went off when they asked him about Iowa having to come out there.
Real quick, JP, we're up against the clock. Gonzaga lost twice. You got them as a 9. How much are they in trouble? I mean, right now they're obviously in, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're in trouble because that's not, by the way, their first back-to-back conference losses in 10 years.
Wow.
So. Yeah, I mean, yes, that's trouble because it's just. I mean, in a similar way with Memphis, nobody you can lose to in that league is going to it's all going to damage you, and so they're running out of room to damage themselves, and they don't have other than maybe St. Mary's, quality wins left on their schedule. So, they've got to be careful. And actually, I have UConn in the middle of the bracket after another loss. And then overtime with Butler last night. UConn doesn't look right. Not like what we're used to seeing.
No.
So, those are two teams that are big names that are in precarious positions and really need to right the ship. And that's especially true for Gonzaga because of their schedule.
Yeah, UConn you have as an 8, but then they lose. No, they win last night, but you have them as an 8.
Overtime.
And then real quick, right now, look, we got a long way to go. We got 2 months to go, but Auburn Duke look to be pretty solid right now as ones. You also have Iowa State and Bama as ones.
Yeah, I would think that, Auburn and Duke have been the two best teams all year, and those other two positions could certainly rotate in and out. Iowa State has been pretty steady since I started doing, the twice-a-week brackets in January. But they lost last week. So, their margin for error is getting smaller. But, yeah, and then it's almost like a different SEC team up there with Auburn every bracket I do these days. So,
all right, we'll check out the brackets at CBSSports.com. He is Jerry Palm. Listen to him every Wednesday talking with us during the college basketball and the college football season. You can follow him on Twitter at JPPalmCBS. Stay warm. Thank you, JP.
All right, thanks.
Take care.
For all your running gear, go see the folks at Fleet Feet, either in East Memphis in the Laurelwood Shopping Center, out in Collierville, popular in Houston Levy next to Huey's. They get you fitted with shoes that are just right for you based on the way you run or walk, plus any other gear that you need. They've got you taken care of, so if you're getting in shape for the new year, it's your New Year's resolution, you need some gear, go see the folks at Fleet Feet. Also, check them out online, fleetfeetmemphis.com, or on their social media where you can keep up to date with things they've got going on and things you can get involved with the folks at Fleet Feet.
You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, happy hour from 3 to 6. $1 off all draft games, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, pretzels, mozzarella sticks, queso, corn dogs, and beer. Friday night lights from 7 to 11. Dining and mozzarella Wednesday, 5 and free. I'll watch college football and every pro game. All at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland. Highway 70, fall is football. Hey folks, no time to wait. It's here, the 36th annual January sale going on now at Sunrise Buick GMC of Wolf Case. Didn't get what you wanted for the holidays? That's okay. Now's the time to take care of you. Are you 100% happy with your holiday? Now's the time to get you a new ride. Huge rebates, big discounts, low interest rates, and Sunrise divorce, low pages, no credit. It's all okay at Sunrise.
Twice a week with special computerized exercise equipment designed to maximize your workouts and minimize your time. An exercise coach gives you personal workouts by one-on-one with a trainer. Check out the exercise coach at exercisecoach.com/Lakeland or exercisecoach.com/Free range, injury, or knowledge.
Now back to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. This hour is brought to you by James Gaddis Jewelers.
Don't you just love it?
Here once again, Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
So you can file this under the I'm not surprised with this news file. Jade McDaniels is back in New England. He'll be Mike Vrabel's offensive coordinator. Again, that one was a no-brainer.
Josh.
What did I say? Jaden? Josh McDaniels. Jaden, where'd that come from? The Bears yesterday introducing Ben Johnson to the folks at the offices outside Chicago, and it was a cool video. Did you see it? As Ben Johnson came into the facility and got the standing ovation. It went on forever. He takes over as the new Chicago Bears head coach.
Yeah, he's But again, this is, and I like Ben Johnson. I would have loved to have Ben Johnson for the Cowboys, but Josh McDaniels, among many others, is a perfect example of getting the hot offensive coordinator does not guarantee you anything when they become head coaches for the first time.
All right, so Bears fill their void. Obviously, the Patriots did about a week or two ago with Mike Vrabel. You have the Saints, the Jets, the Raiders, the Jags, the Cowboys, all looking at finding new head coaches. The Cowboys have interviewed some, not a ton. The Saints, interesting, they want to interview Aaron Glenn, but because of the snowstorm that rolled through, it's delayed things, although the Jets are really high on Aaron Glenn. So if the Jets are that high, I don't know why you just don't make that offer right now and tell him don't go down to New Orleans, unless that's his prerogative. I mean, it's his prerogative to do so, but it looks like Aaron Glenn will probably end up with one of those two, either in New Orleans or the Jets. The Jags, I'm not sure. Maybe Mike McCarthy. The Raiders, it may make sense to go after Mike McCarthy. The Cowboys, I don't know what's going on. I mean, do you believe it could be Jason Witten? Without any experience?
Again, anytime you're talking about Jerry Jones, anything is possible. I don't think it'll be Jason Witten. I think probably it will be Kellen Moore, but it's Jerry Jones. So trying to figure him out is not easy.
Yeah, I wonder if he would look to add Jason Witten, even if it's not his choice for head coach, to bring him in.
Well, no, that's what everybody said.
They're talking about that?
That was if they had kept McCarthy, that Witten would have been on the staff. Like they wanted to groom Witten to become the head coach. So yeah, now depending on who that new head coach is, but we know that Jerry forced Kellen Moore on Mike McCarthy. I'm sure Jerry will force Jason Witten on whoever the coach is.
In an effort to support Ravens tight end Mark Andrews, the Buffalo Bills fans, known as the Bills Mafia, has donated close to $60,000 and counting to an organization called Breakthrough T1D. That's the organization that is helping fight type 1 diabetes, raising money, raising awareness. Mark Andrews deals with type 1 diabetes. So he, again, is coming off the unforgettable game, right? The game you want to forget. Not unforgettable. The game you want to forget after the fumble and then drop the 2-point conversion. And now the fans come through helping out his organization and helping improving the lives of those that deal with type 1 diabetes. You can look at it two ways. You can look at it that they are very thankful that he screwed up, and that's why the Bills are playing in the AFC Championship game. So I don't think they're mocking him, but they're trying to find a way to thank him in a strange way, but in a way that helps out a lot of people. So I think overall it's a good thing. I'm sure Mark Andrews would rather just, head off into the sunset for a while there before he, gains his composure back and realizes that, it's a team loss just like it's a team win, and don't blame yourself for everything. I love the fact that Lamar Jackson stepped up the way he did to talk about it being, it wasn't Mark's fault. Mark's been great for us. He's the all-time leading receiver in Ravens history. And I think that's what a leader does, and that's what Lamar did. I saw the latest Hard Knocks, the final one for the AFC North. And again, while it was incredibly disappointing and criticism certainly directed at Lamar, that he was able to, take the high road, which a leader does, and talk about it being a team loss. It's not on one person. But again, the Bills Mafia coming through, raising already $60,000 and counting to help out the cause. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, hour number 3, we got a lot to get to. DeMichael Cole will join us. We'll talk Grizzlies. Parthu Pajai will join us. We'll talk Memphis Tigers basketball and a couple of other things I wanted to get to as well in our final segment. So a busy third hour on the way. Stay tuned. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
just a place where you get your oil changed. We do glass repair, windshield replacement, recalibration of your camera and sonar systems, even wheel repair, tire replacement, all the things you would expect from a luxury automotive dealer. Please check out our website. You can schedule your appointment, check out our specials, hours of operation, or if you'd like to do it in person, please reach out to one of our associates at 901-271-5199.
Hungry for that delicious smash burger flavor? Dyer's Cafe is the original smash burger since 1912 and still smashing burgers in Collier's historic town square. Come out for their lunch specials Monday through Friday, 11 to 2. Ask about their world-famous split dog and authentic Chicago or New York dog. Try the leaner side of Dyer's with a grilled chicken sandwich or freshly made salad. Also serving lakes, raised catfish, Pasquale's tamales, and a customer favorite hand-breaded onion rings. Dyer's, serving world-famous burgers, dogs, and shakes in Collier's historic town square.
Grizz Nation, it's time to get loud for your Memphis Grizzlies this Friday at 7 p.m. when they host the New Orleans Pelicans. Arrive early, first 5,000 or receive a Memphis Sounds record player, car, air freshener. Secure your tickets today at Grizzlies.com.
Traffic brought to you by 901 Eats to Go, 3135 Kirby Witten Road in Martin. Pick up on ask Uber Eats online at 901eats.com. Eats with a Z, good food fast.
Sports 56 traffic.
Good morning. Still wrapping up the paperwork on that wreck on Bill Morris Parkway coming inbound. That's westbound Bill Morris before Forest Hill Irene. It did at one point have that traffic slower than normal coming in from Collierville towards Memphis. It's still heavy over here where we did have that crash earlier on 40 westbound at Sycamore View Road. Just a lot of volume in that area now between Germantown Parkway and Sycamore View Road on 40 coming westbound. Hey, make a difference by adopting a pet. Today at the Humane Society of Memphis Shelby County, check out the animals that are up for adoption. Log on to memphishumane.org. I'm Commander Chuck with your on-time traffic.
This is Original Sports Station. We are Sports 56, WHBQ Memphis, and W253DF Memphis.
Welcome back, everybody. 9:02 the time. Hour number 3 here on Sports 56 Mornings, the Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025 edition. Greg Aston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Seegers with you from the Family Leisure Studios. Family Leisure and their floor model sale continues at 2120 Witten Road, just north of I-40. Currently 15 degrees. It's going to get up to 36 today. Sunshine for the most part. Then tonight, clear skies, 23 degrees tomorrow. Mostly sunny with a high of 45 after an overnight low of 24. Third hour of the program brought to you by Jenkins Floors and More, located at 2356 Goodman Road. That's in Horn Lake, Mississippi. They also have stores in Cleveland, Mississippi, and in Little Rock. You're looking for that new flooring or carpeting in 2025. Jenkins is the place for you. They sell it wholesale, skip the middleman, and save you lots of money. Top of the line material, hardwoods from Porter Craft, carpeting from Southern Luxury Carpet, ceramic and porcelain tiles. They got the SPC and WPC vinyls, the backsplashes for your kitchens and bathrooms, plantation shutters and blinds, and so much more. You go see them at their warehouse. Tell them you heard it here on Sports 56 Mornings and ask about that Sports 56 family discount. Also, military first responders, you get 10% off. Financing is available. You can call them at 662-469-9350. They will come to you. They'll give you a free estimate, show you different samples of the flooring and carpeting, and then they'll get the job done for you in a 2-week turnaround. So if you're not doing it yourself, call Jenkins. They'll do it for you. But if you are doing it yourself, it makes sense to get your material at a discounted price at Jenkins Floors and More because, again, they sell it wholesale. 2356 Goodman Road in Horn Lake, 662-469-9350. They're open Monday through Saturday. It's Jenkins Floors and More, the third hour sponsor of Sports 56 Mornings. Trying to track down to Michael Cole at the moment, Grizzlies beat writer for the Commercial Appeal. The Grizzlies tonight, as we've talked about, will take on the Charlotte Hornets. They'll have 3 games in 4 nights with the Pelicans on Friday and the Utah Jazz on Saturday, and a great opportunity for the Grizzlies to continue this winning streak, stretch it to 6, get to 31-15, and perhaps pass Houston again for second place in the Western Conference. It's an opportunity, and you would think that you would take advantage of it. These are three of the worst teams in the NBA coming into town.
A couple of texts. One, Matt texted and says, is there a timetable for Marcus Smart's return? He is still, if I remember correctly, in the week-to-week stage. Is that what they did with him? I believe that was.
Yes.
I think he is a week-to-week, and they announced that as of, I don't remember when they made the announcement on him as being week-to-week, but I think he's supposed to be getting close. I don't know if that's this week, or maybe next week, but I believe he's expected back here in the next couple of weeks. Trying to see if I see exactly when they made the announcement of week to week with him. And then Vince should be back. I mean, in these next couple of weeks, should have, I think, Vince and Marcus back.
I would think so. Look, they're very, very cautious. They're extremely cautious with injuries. I'm not going to say they're the most cautious in the league, but they're certainly way up there. And there's no rush. So these guys, I would think, even Smart right now, like if he had to play with his finger injury, he probably would still play. In a playoff, if they're playing in a real meaningful game, right now you don't have to worry about that. You're getting great support from everybody on this team. You're winning games. You're taking care of business. So the medical staff and the trainers are going to be very cautious with these guys.
On January 10th is when they announced, that's when they came up with the update for him, and they said he is considered week to week. So
that's 12 days ago.
We're going almost 2 weeks since
Right.
they said he was week to week. So I would assume here in the next week or so, I would think we would probably see Marcus Smart. And again, Vince Williams should be back here very soon as well. So fingers crossed, everybody, pretty much, obviously Cam Spencer's still going to be out, and he's more long-term than that right now. But for the most part, everybody will be healthy and over these next couple of weeks. Again, as long as nothing else happens to anybody else who is currently healthy once they get those two guys back. Paul texted, he said, we're talking earlier when I talked about the rotation for the playoffs, he said Santi in the rotation over Clark and maybe Kennard because you'll need someone to facilitate the offense. Well, I didn't have Kennard in mine. First of all, if mine, I had Cam Johnson. This was my wish list. And if Cam Johnson's here, Kennard would be used in that trade, wouldn't be here. Even if Kennard was here, I wouldn't have him pretty much in the rotation. Brandon Clark's numbers, especially like the advanced metrics, are the best on the team. Like, Brandon Clark's playing. Brandon Clark probably, to me, should be starting at center.
What are you talking about, plus, minus? What kind of advanced metrics are you talking about?
Best defensive rating on the team. I think he's third in
Better than
offensive.
Jackson?
I think he's third best offensive rating on the team. Best net rating on the team.
Really?
Like him and Jaren together are unbelievable. It's Brandon Clark's numbers are. When Brandon Clark is on the court, good things generally happen for the Grizzlies. Brandon Clark ain't coming out of no rotation. Certainly not for Santi. Again, I would probably be starting Brandon at that point. But part of that would depend on the matchups. Who's the center on the other team? Is it a better matchup for Brandon or Edie because of size and all that type stuff? But no, Brandon Clark 100% is in the rotation.
When you're talking about Vince Williams, he's a 3-and-D guy, but he's more known for his defense, right? Marcus Smart, again, he can light it up at times, but he's not known for his offense. He's known for his defense. You just talked about Brandon Clark, who can give you a little bit of offense, tip-ins and things of that nature, follow-ups, but he's known for his defense. Do you have enough outside shooting if you're not throwing Santi Aldama into that rotation? He's a guy who obviously, the other day, Monday, he had a horrible game. It was one of those days where it was just awful. But Before that, he had scored 29, and he's been one of the more consistent players on the team. He's a little bit of a liability defensively, although can get you rebounds because he's tall. But he is a really good offensive player. So I would think that, that offensive firepower off the bench would be needed with all these other guys that are defensive oriented.
And in the rotation that I gave earlier, I included Vince Williams. Vince Williams still has to earn that. We still haven't seen Vince Williams do anything other than be on a terrible team, and but I because of his defense. But Jalen Wells easily could become that spot too.
Right. Did you have Jalen Wells when you said that? So you got him from starter, one of the top 3 most consistent players this year, to out of the rotation.
In the postseason, if everybody's healthy, yeah. Again, but he could be the guy, and Vince Williams could get bumped out.
Well, here's the thing. That's a good point. Vince Williams last year, just like G.G. Jackson, had the opportunity to play and play a lot, right? G.G. was a rookie. Vince was in his second year. And they had their opportunity, and they shined. And quickly, people realized how good a defensive player Vince was, and that GG could fill it up, and it was fun. But it was a horrible season where they played teams that didn't play their starters, and they still lost the games and all that. So it's hard to bank on everything that happened last year and assume that that's what's going to happen this year. Well, Jalen Wells gets thrown into the fire because of injuries. And not only is one of their most consistent overall players, he's an offensive threat with his three-point shooting. And he has become a really good defender. He's not Marcus Smart-esque. He's not Jaren Jackson. But he's been put on a lot of the teams that they've gone up against best perimeter player. So if Jalen Wells can play that well defensively to go along with his ability to shoot the three, and I don't know the numbers, Vince's three-point shooting from last year compared to what this kid's doing as a rookie, but I would think that Jalen Wells has a great chance to stay in the rotation, and Vince will have to earn his way into it. But I don't know how you just throw that guy out. I don't think you do. I think he's earned his way. Now, would he be in crunch time when they need defensive? I don't know. But all I know is that he's been going up against some of the teams that they've played recently, their best perimeter player, and he's fared well. He's physical. I mean, he got drilled the other day by, who was it, Randall? I mean, got knocked down hard, picked himself up, brushed himself off, was ready to go again. Talked about it after the game. I was in the locker room. Smile on his face, plays beyond his years. So Daniels is an interesting cat, to be honest with you, with the whole rotation thing. Wells, I'm sorry.
That's now if they don't make a move and Cam Johnson is not in there, then there's room for Wells and Vince Williams in all likelihood in that. But that's what the rest of the regular season is to sort out. Like, who is that guy? If one of those guys is going to be starting, I would assume. So if you don't make a move, so who is that guy? Is that Vince or is that Jalen? Which one is going to be the starter at that position when you get to the postseason?
Here's the other thing: does Edey start all the time, or are there matchups that will be coming down the road in the postseason that you look and go, you know what, this is a better matchup for Brandon Clark to start? Although Brandon's always made it known that he likes coming off the bench. I like him coming off the bench. But maybe there's a matchup that's more advantageous to have him as a starter. These are things that coaches like because they can mix and match. Taylor Jenkins looks at this, I guarantee you, as a positive, not as a negative, with everybody healthy and all those options. We throw it out there because it's an interesting topic. You know, who would be out of the rotation. But it doesn't mean that it has to be consistent. It could be where you're playing a certain team and it makes sense to have this guy in. Or you're playing a team and it makes sense to have this guy start. But as you said, the only way you're going to know the answers to all those questions is to see all these guys together and see what happens as the season goes along, the regular season. And so the quicker these guys can come back, the more you can see them integrated into different lineups. Because it seems like every time you watch the Grizzlies, you're seeing different lineups that you haven't seen this year. Mixing and matching. It's exactly what's going on. By the way, I don't know where DeMichael is. He's a Wednesday regular with us. We'll try to track him down, obviously, for next week, but running short on time here. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Grizzlies. I've got some other things I want to get to. And then Parthu Pajai, he'll join us in studio to talk Memphis Tigers hoops.
Well, the thing, too, like, again, when you're talking 8-man, 9-man rotations, like, there is going to be need for other guys at various points to play.
Yes.
Foul trouble, other stuff. There will be games like the other day. Like, it wasn't hard to realize that Santi Aldama, not his day.
Uh-huh.
And you're going to say, you know what, Santi? Not your day. We're going to try somebody else today. Like, that'll happen. So it's not like when I'm talking 8, 9-man rotation, like literally nobody else is going to play. Those are going to be but those are the guys who are going to get the majority of the minutes and get that first opportunity and all that.
And not every coach does that. Coaches sometimes set their rotations and those guys play. I like the fact that if somebody's struggling, hey, get somebody else in there. It doesn't mean that you don't go back to that guy for the next game, but you have options. The thing is, what are the chances? What are the odds that the Grizzlies are going to all be healthy postseason time? The odds are very, very slim. Now, what you hope is that your main guys, your rotation guys, the bulk of your players are healthy and that they can sustain health throughout the postseason. They have not had a good track record with that. But hopefully it will be different because the basketball gods owe the Grizzlies after last year. I don't know if you know that, but after the disaster that was last year. But I guess the biggest question will be over the next couple of weeks. When's the trade deadline?
It's early February. I don't know the exact date.
Elijah, see if you can find the trade deadline.
It's February 6th.
Thank you. February 6th. So we're talking about 2 weeks. Will a move be made? But there will be some moves around the NBA. Jimmy Butler's going to be moved, even though he's played now since his return to Miami. He's going to get moved, but where is he going to get moved? Again, the trade yesterday with Utah and Phoenix, the draft picks, puts Phoenix in a better position to make that type of trade. Okay, switching gears real quick. I saw this story from CBS Sports, Dennis Dodd, friend of the show. We were talking about, with Jerry Palm, possible tweaks for 2025, but what's going to happen going on forward in 2026? More than likely 2 playoff teams added, 14 teams. I wish they would just go to 16 because it's inevitable. But let me read you what Dodd had to say. He goes, on the table is the continued sensitive subject of automatic qualifiers going forward. The question is how to implement such a structure seemingly preferred by the SEC and the Big Ten. One format being discussed is so-called play-in games during the regular season that would decide at least some of those automatic qualifiers on the field or in the field. The championship Saturday would be enhanced by not only the number 1 and number 2 seeds meeting for the league title, but teams below those two playing for automatic berths. Think of the top 6 teams at least being involved in a massive championship Saturday 3-game play-in. Using this season's Big Ten and SEC standings, this is how it would look. In the Big Ten, number 1 Oregon versus number 2 Penn State, number 6 Iowa versus number 3 Indiana, number 5 Illinois versus number 4 Ohio State. In the SEC, number 1 Texas versus number 2 Georgia, number 6 Ole Miss versus number 3 Tennessee, number 5 LSU versus number 4 Alabama. The 3 winners would advance to the college football playoff. It is not known if or how a 4th automatic qualifier would be added. The 4th team could come from an additional play-in game, which is crazy, or merely including the championship game loser. In this scenario, that should be the way to go, in my opinion. I don't know why you would knock out the team that's number 1 or number 2 just because they lost, but this is what they're talking about. I heard rumors of it. I haven't studied it, though. College Football Playoff Executive Director Rich Clark told CBS Sports Tuesday. Ultimately, that's a Big Ten and SEC decision on how they play within their conference and a commissioner decision on how we look at that in regard to the playoff. Again, you're talking about AQs, but when the contract is finalized, when the negotiations are done, how many automatics will be coming from the SEC and how many automatics will be coming from the Big Ten. That's the question. If that is the case where they're going to have 3 or 4, then you could seemingly have this within those 2 power conferences to have basically an elimination Saturday. That would be pretty incredible.
Yeah, again, I mean, if once you have more than one automatic qualifier, you can easily look at ways to decide that. Now, you could just leave it up to the committee to choose those teams, or you could say we could, and what they will look at is, can we make money by playing these games? And if they can, then by golly, let's do it.
Well, it's not only they make money, but they want to take it out of the hands of the committee. They're not happy necessarily with the picks for the AQ. And so if they have more spots in the Big Ten and the SEC, they want to make their people happy. How do they make their people happy where there's no argument is have elimination games, which is, again, going to be, like you said, more revenue for the league. I mean, that is something that I didn't even think of. It's more, again, I don't know how many games we're talking about here. It would be a conference championship weekend, but all those other teams would be playing that additional game as well. So it is something to really think about, and it will be, according to Dennis Dodd in this story. We don't talk a lot of tennis on this show, but real quick, yesterday, Novak Djokovic is, I think the guy's legitimately a robot. I do not believe he's a human being. He wins in the quarters of the Australian Open, the first major of the year, beating young Carlos Alcaraz, who's already got, 4 majors to his credit. Beats him 4-6, 6-4, 6-3, 6-4. He moves into his 12th semifinal at the Australian Open, his 50th major semifinal. The guy's 37, by the way. He has 24 majors in singles, 10 of them at the Australian Open. Could he get 25? It's a good possibility. Could he get it here at the Aussie Open? It's a great possibility. He's got 2 more matches to win. If he does, it will be his 11th Australian Open title. And this year being coached by Andy Murray, who just recently retired. Unbelievable what that guy's doing. A machine. A machine. All right.
He's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Folks, new year, new you. Well, if you're ready to exercise, well, the exercise coach is ready for you. Strength training starts or only takes 20 minutes twice a week. That's right, 20 minutes twice a week. So you're talking 40 total minutes a week. You have that to dedicate to a little bit of strength training. Special computerized equipment designed to maximize your workouts and minimize your time. The exercise coach gives you personal workouts by appointment only, one-on-one with a trainer. And again, you're only talking 20 minutes twice a week. You can check them out in Lakeland or Collierville. Exercisecoach.com/Lakeland or exercisecoach.com/Collierville. Or you can walk in at either location, sign up, and get 2 free workouts. The Exercise Coach is ready to help you get fit for the new year. No matter your age, injury, or knowledge, the Exercise Coach can help you, and it only takes 20 minutes twice a week with the Exercise Coach. Get exercisecoach.com/Lakeland or /Collierville.
We're going to exercise our right to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're talking Tigers hoops big week. Games tomorrow against Wichita State, Sunday against UAB, both games at FedEx Forum. We'll talk with Tigers basketball beat writer from the Daily Memphian, Parth Upadhyay, will join us in studio. This is Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
We are Real Sports Talk. Sports 56 WHBQ. Available on your radio dial at 560 AM and 98.5 FM, as well as around the world online at sports56whbq.com. Take us with you everywhere by downloading the Sports 56 app. And at home, just say, Alexa, play Sports 56. Sports 56 and 95 FM.
Shack and the Lowe's parking lot on summer just keeps getting bigger and better. Bigger because now there's a second Elwood Shack at 4040 Park across from the University of Memphis. And better because you can get breakfast every day at both Elwood. There's the barbecue breakfast burrito, even beef brisket or pork shoulder, and pancake biscuits made fresh daily. Real house-made pancakes
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. Did you know there are so many roofing companies in Memphis that I don't even know them all? So that begs the question, which one should you choose? So I thought I'd give you a little background about me. My grandfather was a World War II Marine. My father worked for the University of Memphis for nearly 30 years. My mother, a pianist at Raleigh Baptist Church. Seems like forever. I went to Brownsville Road, Craigmont, and Bartlett High School, class of 81. We support the local school systems, youth athletics, and believe in what St. Jude and Le Bonheur stand for. I'm a Tiger and Grizz fan. The point? Memphis is my home. Five-Ash Roofing will be around if you ever have a problem with the service we provide. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical, with deep local ties in our community. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing is what we do. We're here for you.
They're taking care of beerness in Memphis right on the river with Grind City Brewing and all of their great products. Look, this was a dream come true for a father and son duo. And if you have not been to that brewery right on the river, just to the north of downtown, you're really missing something special. And now you can't miss their products. Wherever you go, you see a brand new label. It's clean, it's beautiful, it's distinctive. You'll know Grind City Brewing, and of course you know their products like Poppy's Pills, that great Pilsner, or Tiger Tail, that very creative craft malt liquor. There's the new Thaddeus Amber Lager. That is absolutely a great light beer. There's the India Pale called God Hopper. It's outstanding. And then there's the Belga, the Belgian-style wheat ale. They keep bringing hits at Grind City Brewing.
Now back to Sports 56 Mornings on Sports 56 and 98.5 once again are Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy.
Welcome back, everybody. 9:27 the time. Our final half hour and change here on Sports 56 Mornings. Greg Gaston, Eli Savoy, Elijah Seegers with you from the Family Leisure Studios. I'm reading this Evan Sidery tweet. The Kings and Nets are negotiating over first-round pick protections in a potential trade involving Cam Johnson. Again, if the Kings get Cam Johnson to go with what they have in De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis, they elevate themselves. So, as we talked about, you almost have to be defensive. I mean, make a move just to prevent from a competitor taking a guy that's going to help his particular team. So that could be the situation if that happens, but I'm sure there's a lot of teams on the phone often over the last couple of weeks, and probably will be until a trade is finalized with members of the front office of the Brooklyn Nets. Tomorrow, by the way, on the show, Kerry Miller will join us at 8:25. We'll talk both baseball and college basketball. And also from the Tennessee Titans, our good buddy Morgan Cox on the NFL and the championship weekend. But right now, it's time to talk some Tigers hoops with Parthu Pajai.
It's time to talk Memphis Tigers basketball. Joining Greg and Eli is Parthu Pajai, the Tigers beat reporter for the Daily Memphian.
He is Parthu Pajai from the Daily Memphian. He's the Memphis Tigers basketball beat writer, does a sensational job, and he's with us each and every week talking Tigers basketball during the Memphis Tigers basketball season. Parth was on the road again last week, both in Philadelphia and in Charlotte. How were your travels?
They're fun. Fun as usual. It's getting to that point in the season where it's starting to wear on me a little bit, as you can probably tell. But definitely enjoying it.
Was it this cold in Philadelphia?
It was. I was surprised for it to be this frigid when I got back. It was cold in Philly. It actually snowed a little bit the day of the Temple game, which was, last Thursday? And then you go to Charlotte, and it's 10 degrees warmer, obviously. So I'm expecting it to be the same kind of temperature here. I get back to Memphis late Sunday, and it's flurrying. I'm like, oh, man, I can't escape the snow for nothing, man.
Well, if the Charlotte game was Thursday and the Temple game was Sunday, you would have run into a big storm in Philadelphia.
I might have been stuck in Philadelphia, no doubt.
You might have been stuck. So what was the whole vibe after the two games. Obviously, the loss on Thursday and then the bounce-back win on Sunday, although they couldn't put away Charlotte. They ended up winning the game, but still had a chance to really blow them out. What was kind of the whole vibe from the team?
Yeah, so the vibe obviously changed in a span of, 3 days, because Thursday after that loss, Penny was upset. He wasn't panicked. He said that to me and others who were there, other media members, that he wasn't going to panic and he wasn't going to talk about last year and he wasn't going to have that deja vu to that unraveling that happened last season. But it was the way in which they lost, right? Like, teams lose games, sure, but to not compete in that fashion, to get out-rebounded 49 to 25, give up 22 offensive rebounds, which are the most ever in any game under Penny Hardaway in his 6+ seasons at Memphis, was just unacceptable, right? Is what Penny said in his own words. And then ultimately he did get that response that he wanted at Charlotte. Did they win by the margin that you and I might have predicted or that fans wanted? No. But, that they competed, they dominated the 49ers on the glass, and they, for the most part, had a wire-to-wire victory. So I asked Penny after the Charlotte game, and I think I tweeted this out as well, what are your, how do you gauge this, right? Because you guys, for, 34 minutes of that game are dominating for the most part. They gave up some threes early or whatever, but for 34 minutes you're dominating, and then Charlotte scores 19 in the last 4 and some change to make it a single-point victory.
Make it respectable.
Versus making it a blowout and running up those computer numbers. And he says, look, we're still trying to figure some things out. He goes back to saying that the conference and the way these teams play in conference and the way Memphis is perceived as the big dog, as the hunted, that all has an impact on how hard these teams are coming out and what kind of shot they're getting on a night-to-night basis. You look at Temple, that was a whiteout. Charlotte, another whiteout. So they're getting these, it's a cliche, but every team's Super Bowl, right? In the AAC. This is not the case when you're playing UConn, who has, the Big East to deal with, and Clemson, who has the ACC, and Duke and Carolina and other schools to deal with. You're not going to be the number one team that's circled, highlighted, and starred on those calendars versus the calendars of Charlotte, Temple, Tulsa, Tulane, Wichita State.
You talk about the rebounding, which the rebounding has been an issue all year. Now, maybe not to the point of what it got to at Temple, again, with the offensive. Charlotte is not a good rebounding team, so probably was a good team to come back with after that game. But it did seem, just watching it, like there was a better effort by the bigs, especially. Like, I thought Musa, especially, to go get rebounds. Like, we're going to get these rebounds.
I agree, yeah. And that's the thing. I wrote that in my story, my second story I wrote afterward, kind of analyzing the game, the love, like, hate that I do after some games. The encouraging part, like you said, was the effort, was the eye test, was guys battling and giving it their all and putting bodies on opposing players and that kind of thing. It wasn't the fact that they out-rebounded Charlotte. Charlotte sucks at rebounding. Charlotte is a winless team in the AAC, which is the 10th best conference in America, right? So that doesn't mean very much to me, or nor should it to anybody else. But what should be encouraging is what you saw out there, and guys battling and guys giving it their all for the majority of those 40 minutes.
Another story you wrote, I thought this was great. You say Tigers have a small problem, and what you're talking about is the lack of size on this team. I knew they were small. I've called games, I've seen them, I've been to practices, but my gosh, I didn't realize this until you wrote it. Coach Penny Hardaway's team is number 319 in the country in average height, number 12 in the 13-team American Conference.
Isn't that something?
It is something. Is it a real? You say it's a small problem. You're playing off the size, but is it a problem?
I think so. There's obviously not a direct correlation between, just rebounding and rim protection and finishing at the rim and height. I mean, there is, but smaller teams can rebound well. It's about schemes and effort and strategy, right? It's not just about height, but height certainly plays a factor when you're playing, high-level college basketball and you only have 3 players, count them, Nick Jourdain at 6'7", Dane Danger at 6'9", and Musa Cisse at 6'11", who are taller than 6'6". That's it. That's the list, right? The average height of this team is 6'4". I am 6'4". Right?
Wow.
If I was on the Memphis basketball roster, I would be the 4th tallest player on that team. Which is nuts to me.
to me, with that, I mean, what it does is it ends up putting more, I guess, pressure or whatever on a guy like Cisse and especially a guy like Danger. Like, so we go to that rebounding issue. That's where, like, Cisse in that Temple game gets 3 rebounds in 20-some minutes. That can't happen. Like, we don't have you. Like, we only have one of you. We don't have other guys. Like, you have to be able to rebound and do the things we ask you to do. They're not asking him to score 20 points, but he's got to be able to. He's got to be able to rebound.
No, and that's who he's been, right? He's been a rebounder and a shot blocker, and in the AAC especially, you expect that on a night-to-night basis. And when you have those no-shows from guys like Cisse, it tends to really affect you, whereas some teams, they can afford to have a 6'11" big man have an off night. Well, Cisse can't, right? You got to have him at least grab 6 to 8 rebounds a night to be competitive on the glass.
You are going to face, on Sunday, UAB and Yaxel Lendeborg, who's huge. What about Wichita State tomorrow night? Do you know much about that roster as far as size? Because I'm wondering if this will be... At least UAB may be the biggest challenge from a size standpoint.
For sure.
What about the Shockers?
Yeah, I wrote it in the story, but we talked about where Memphis is ranked in terms of height in America, 294 out of 364 Division I teams. They're 12th in the conference. The only team smaller than Memphis is Wichita State.
Really?
So that's who they're welcoming. When the Shockers come to town on
tomorrow night.
On tomorrow night, Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking at their main guys. They've got the 6'11" guy, and then it's 6'5" and shorter, but they do have the 6'11" guy. So again, they just like you have with Cisse, they have with that guy. Like those guys have to come, and so Cisse, you need Cisse to go up against that guy.
Yeah, and you also need your guards, and I know Penny has stressed this all season long, and for the most part, they've done a pretty good job. But your guards have to hit the glass.
That didn't happen against Temple. Temple's, I think it was 6'4" Shane Dezzoni. I'm probably butchering the guy's name.
Rebounds.
13 rebounds, 8 of them on the offensive glass. That's crazy.
Again, that's effort. That's being in the right position. I thought Memphis was out of position so much in that Temple game. The communication was absolutely horrible.
And I will say, sorry to cut you off, Greg, but despite Wichita State's lack of size across the board, you mentioned Quincy Ballard, the 6'11" center, and even guys like Corey Washington, who plays the undersized 4/3 at 6'5". Those guys are some of the best offensive rebounders in the country. I was looking at it yesterday when I was writing my preview for the game. Quincy Ballard, the big man, is 77th in the country in offensive rebounds per game at 2.8. Wow. And Corey Washington, the second player I mentioned there, is 83rd.
Yeah, and that's certainly one of Memphis's bugaboos, and they're going to be challenged this week. And Penny said this is separation week for us in our conference. It's early in conference play, 4 or 5 games in. You look at the standings, and they're bunched up at the top, Memphis being one of them. This is a golden opportunity because on Monday, what we could be talking about if they drop 1 or 2 of these games, but they could take a step towards a conference championship, regular season conference championship, if they can win these 2 games. Still a long way to go, but this is, I completely agree with what Penny says.
Yeah, no doubt. UAB is now at 5-1 after last night's win where they won against UTSA, I believe it was.
Yes.
And then it's Memphis, North Texas, and Temple, all in a 3-way tie for second. And I think it's early, right? And Memphis, it was very unlikely that the Tigers were going to go 18-0 through the conference slate. We talked about that multiple times in the preseason and leading up to,
of course,
conference play. But it is a little bit disappointing, right? You got to think that the Tigers have not separated themselves yet in terms of even their play. Like, forget the record, but to lose that Temple in the fashion in which they lost, and then to beat North Texas and East Carolina by a combined 8 points, and then to beat Charlotte by only 9. Like, Memphis has not only in the standings not separated itself, but just in the eye test, the Tigers have not looked like a team that is in a class of its own.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially after the Florida Atlantic, because the Florida Atlantic game, your first conference game, you go out there, you go down there, you dominate them, and I think people thought, like, okay, yeah, that's going to be easy. That's what they're supposed to do. Like, that, right. Take care of these teams, and since then, they just haven't been able to do that to anybody.
Isn't it baffling though? Like I asked Penny about it, and I don't even think Penny had a great answer for me. Being the head coach, like this is not exactly the same team that we saw in non-conference. This is not the same team we saw in Maui that flashed Elite Eight potential, in my opinion, when they beat UConn in overtime, where they beat Michigan State and Auburn. That game was ugly, but that's Auburn, right? That's a machine.
Well, because we talked early in the year, and I think it was in with just off like the Ken Pom projections, that there was only 3 games he had them winning by single digits.
Correct.
And then, other than Florida Atlantic, they haven't won a game by double digits. So
no,
I mean they're coming up short of what the projections are from the computers and everybody else, basically in every conference game other than the Florida Atlantic one.
No, the 3 games they've won since FAU, they've gone obviously 3-1 with wins against North Texas, East Carolina, and Charlotte. Those games have come by, or those wins rather, have come by a combined margin of 17 points.
Like last year when they added a midseason enrollee in Naquan Tomlin, they add the midseason enrollee in Dante Harris. Harris, a different type of player, not as impactful as Tomlin, and this is a different makeup with this roster. However, it is a new player that has to find that chemistry and seems like he's doing a pretty good job. But all of a sudden in the last game, you had a DNP CD with Baraka Okoji. We know the issues last year. We're not going down that path this year, are we?
It doesn't seem like it, and I wouldn't suspect that. Penny didn't go into it after the game, and he told Dave Voloshin on the postgame radio show that there's no time for feelings, and Baraka's going to get his moment when he gets his moment.
Which I agree.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's his job, right, as the head coach to put guys, for lack of better terms, in check, you know? And I don't know what happened. I don't know the backstory, but that's up to his discretion. That's his choice for not playing Baraka Okoji.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like disciplinary. It sounds like just strategic. I mean, he's getting better minutes from this guy who they just brought in. You're going to play your best players. And Penny's alluded to it before, who was it that said, oh, it was Cisse. He was interviewed, and he said the first time around, Penny, and I'm paraphrasing here, it was basically, he was our friend, and he wanted to make sure everybody was happy.
Players,
now,
coach,
Penny's different. He's a different coach now. He's going to put the right guys on the court to help him win basketball games. And now
I like it, man.
Yeah, and now it seems like Harris is that fourth guard.
Yeah, definitely. I think Baraka Okoji obviously was slotted as the backup point guard coming into the season, especially with 2 point guards starting in Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty.
Right.
And they got, in my opinion, like the defensive intensity from Okoji's been there throughout the season, right? Like he's arguably their best on-ball defender, and has been. But there is a offensive drop-off when you put him in the game and take Tyrese Hunter and PJ Haggerty out. There's going to be a drop-off with most guards that you put in because those guys are so excellent, right? Like you got an All-American candidate in PJ Haggerty, and Tyrese Hunter's been a star as well. But I think Dante Harris closes that gap just a little bit with his elusiveness, with his ability to touch the paint and kick the ball out, and still keep that offense humming and flowing.
If they lose another game in conference play, do you believe it would most likely be the game at UAB? Is that the most losable game?
I think so. UAB, Andy Kennedy said it last night after they beat UTSA, but he called his team the hottest team in America. I wouldn't go that far, but that team is definitely trending upward. This is not the same UAB team that had lost to Longwood and was struggling heavily early in the season.
I hope that Memphis doesn't overlook, and I don't think they will, Wichita State. Looking forward to that game Sunday against UAB. But Andy Kennedy is right. This is a different UAB team than it was just 3-4 weeks ago. I think it's going to be a big challenge, whether it be in Birmingham or in Memphis, because we talked about the bigs. Leonard Borg, he's an NBA player.
He's a monster.
He's really, really good. If he doesn't get in early foul trouble, he can absolutely dominate. And it's going to be a challenge for Memphis. But again, as Penny said, this gives them a chance to win 2 games, albeit at home. It doesn't matter. It's just 2 important games. Remember, last week when they lost to Temple, it cost them as far as the prognosticators, the bracketologists. In fact, Jerry Palm was just on with us, dropped them a couple of spots.
Yeah. So I think Jerry's got him at a 6 right now.
He's got him now as a 6.
Had him as a 3 in his previous one, so dropped him.
Well, originally a 3, then a 4,
Okay.
but he dropped him last week. He was a 4, dropped him 2 seed lines. But it varies from which bracketologist you look at, but it's anywhere from like 4, 5, and 6 right now.
Right.
But you lose another game or 2, now you're starting to get in that dangerous.
You're trending towards that 8-9.
Yeah,
and that'd be so unfortunate with the good work they've done, man. Like from November through end of December.
That's why it's so pivotal and I know how hard it is for this coaching staff to make sure that this team understands the importance of every one of these games, whether it's Rice or East Carolina or Tulane, that they're just important as UConn and Michigan State and Clemson.
Yes.
Because, like you said, all the hard work could be for naught if they start to lose a few of these games and drop down, because it's all about setting yourself up for the postseason.
Yeah, and Penny said it back in November. I think even before they got to Maui, that the whole goal this season was to get a top 4 seed. Obviously, that wasn't necessarily the talk around the country. Like,
Sure.
this team wasn't highly touted in preseason top 25 or anything like that. But Penny and his staff, when they looked in their locker room, they saw enough talent there to get a top 4 seed and to make a Sweet 16 run in the NCAA tournament. And to not position yourself for that after doing all this good work and really proving yourself to the nation would be a shame, I think.
Where did you vote them this week compared to last week? How did you move them in your ballot?
Yeah, I moved him to 20th, and I had him at 18th last week.
So you dropped him 2 spots.
So not too much of a slide, and I think goes without saying, but with the chaos that was happening around the country, 19 top 25 teams lost. I believe 3 of them lost twice and 10 lost to unranked opponents, just like Memphis did. That's what kind of limited the damage there between going from what I had him as 18th to 20th versus maybe even further or knocked out entirely.
Yeah, they could have easily got knocked out. Gonzaga lost twice. They did get knocked out. But the reason they took a 6-spot drop, and Jerry alluded to this when he was on with us, is even though it's a quadrant 2, it's only a quadrant 2 loss to Temple, right? It's not a quadrant 4 loss, and it was a road game. You got to remember that all those teams that felt the carnage over the weekend were losing to teams that were good, really good, better than Temple.
That's what I was going to say.
Better than Temple.
Well, they also got wins that were better than Charlotte. Way better than Charlotte.
Yeah, those who split the 2. Yeah, those who won
and
and lost
in those
one.
games than Memphis did against Charlotte.
Yeah.
I wrote about this in my I write a column basically after I vote every week, kind of explaining how I voted and why I voted the way I did. Out of those, so there were 22 losses, right? That top 25 teams suffered. 19 teams lost, 16 lost once, 3 lost twice, so that's 22 total losses. Top 25 teams were 23 and 22, so barely above 500. But out of those 22 L's, Memphis's loss against Temple was the second worst loss,
right,
by advanced analytics of any of them. The only worst team that won was Minnesota, who was 121 in the net at the time of this writing on Monday. Temple was 108. So those are the only 2 non-top 100 teams that beat ranked teams. So we talk about it all the time. People want to say, oh, anybody can beat anybody. Well, not really.
Exactly.
That's not.
And it wasn't that bad of a loss, but compared to all these other teams, it was. And so the moral of the story is get the hell out of this conference. Parth, thank you. As always.
The thing is, like, if you're in the SEC, you don't ever play a team over 100.
No, you don't.
You can't take that loss because you don't play any of them in the conference.
If you're in the SEC, you might play 3 top 15 teams in a week, in a 10-day span. It's insane.
Parth will have you covered, of course, at the Daily Memphian. Read all his great stories there. Follow him on Twitter at PUPADHYAYA_. He's Parth Utpajai. He joins us each and every Wednesday to talk Tigers basketball. Thank you, Parth.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
Lots of Grizzlies basketball this week. Lots of Tigers basketball. If you're not heading down to FedEx Forum for the games, you can always go to East Coast Wings and Grill to watch all the action. Always good crowds in there to watch the games. Of course, the conference championship games on Sunday as well. They'll have it all on for you at East Coast Wings and Grill, while you can enjoy some of their great food, like any of their 60 flavors of wings or one of their great burgers or flatbreads, other sandwiches, salads. They've got it all. Great menu to choose from, plus 24 draft beers on tap. Any other beers or drinks that you need, they've got you taken care of with a great staff to serve you as well at East Coast Wings and Grill. They got the rewards program. Get a rewards card. You can earn rewards in every dollar that you spend at East Coast Wings and Grill. Located in Bartlett, just off Highway 64, there in the Wolf Chase area where Lowe's and Walmart are. It's right between the two of those off of Highway 64. Online, eastcoastwings.com. You can order online for pickup. You can also get it delivered via DoorDash. If you want to watch the games at home and get some of those delicious wings, you can do that via DoorDash with East Coast Wings and Grill.
You're tuned in to Sports 56 Mornings with Greg and Eli on Real Sports Talk, Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Jenkins Floors and More in invites you to their retail warehouse where they pass wholesale savings on to you. Jenkins Floors in Little Rock, Cleveland, Mississippi, and now open in Horn Lake at 2356 West Goodman Road. Specializing in flooring and carpeting, tile, plantation shutters, and blinds, Jenkins makes your life easy with a 2-week turnaround. Contractors, builders, or family projects, call 662-469-9350 for a free estimate. Owners Timmy and Rebecca Jenkins say hello to Sports 56 fans and look forward to your business.
Case IH is a proud supporter of the Mississippi Farm Bureau, and thanks to a membership benefits partnership, Mississippi Farm Bureau members receive a discount of up to $500 on every qualifying Case IH tractor and piece of equipment you purchase. This discount may be used with other promotions, rebates, or offers, so join Mid-South Ag Equipment and the Mississippi Farm Bureau and pocket up to $500 in savings. Call Mid-South Ag at 662-890-3141 to get your discount today.
You know, I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you.
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's the location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
The Family Leisure floor model sales happening right now through the end of January. Family Leisure has got to get rid of all the 2024 inventory because all the new 2025 items are starting to arrive. All floor models are up to 50% off. You want a cold plunge tub? They start at $49.99. Go the other route with a hot tub. Get $3,000 off with free steps and chemicals. Family Leisure has pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, even baseball tables from 20 to 60% off. Want piercing? Family Leisure has piercing up to 75% off. Plus, now's the time to start thinking about pool seats. You can buy it now, get on the installation schedule, and be ready before everyone else. Special financing is also available. Hey, if you want to get free delivery on any of these items, you just tell the phone staff at Family Leisure that you heard this commercial. It's the floor model. So now, through the end of January, Family Leisure, we ordered I-40, traveling and fun, come together. Now back to Sports 56 mornings on Sports 56.
NBC announces Mike Tirico will serve as the network's lead play-by-play voice for its NBA coverage next season. What a great choice. One of my favorites, Mike Tirico. I've told you the story many times about him jumping on set with me and Michael Eaves when we were doing our golf coverage of the old FedEx St. Jude Classic, and he was delightful. I mean, the guy was just, he made time for us all. I think he's fabulous at what he does, and he'll crush it as the lead voice for the NBA on NBC. And I believe they'll have the John Tesh song back, right?
I think so. I
think
don't
they
know.
didn't they just reach a deal or are getting closer to reaching that deal to use what's that song called again? Do you guys know the song for, you know, the song that they used, the John Tesh NBA song? What's it called?
I don't know what it's called.
Round Ball Rock.
Round Ball Rock. Brian Dacus, thank you very much. So I think that's going to be back for when NBC brings back basketball starting next year, brings back the NBA. Okay, one thing we didn't get to. Did you watch TGL last night? You still on board?
I did. Watch the whole thing.
I watched it too. I'm still not enamored by it.
So every week you tell us you're not going to watch it, then you watch it.
No, I've watched bits and pieces the first 2 weeks, and the only reason I watched it last week was because of Tiger. But this week, I actually sat down there and watched it, and I thought it was great. The competition is not that good. I mean, we've had 3 blowouts in a row. But what was good was we saw Billy Horschel and his personality, Justin Thomas and his personality, Ricky Fowler and somewhat even Patrick Cantlay smiled, I think, a couple times. I actually saw him smile twice. So it was fun in that sense. It's really cool. Man, you had some powerful people in that arena. You had Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta team, and you had Steve Cohen, the Mets owner, the owner of that New York team.
and it was the Atlanta team led by Justin Thomas that won. Hit some long putts. I mean, some long putts, but they didn't. Was the hammer thrown at all last night?
No, Justin Thomas weak.
I don't understand why the hammer wasn't thrown.
He never would throw it. They had multiple great opportunities to throw it where the other team would have taken it, had to take it, and he didn't. He was like confused. He kept asking Cantlay, and Cantlay's too boring to tell him to throw it. So that was the disappointing part about last night.
Yeah, I noticed
the golf was good. Like they played, that's as well as anybody's played for sure. Like their team was incredible. Like they seemingly hit every green, made putts. Like they were score-wise, they were awesome.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen all the teams. I don't think all the teams have played yet, but that team's going to be hard to beat. But you're right. As far as for what it's worth, hitting the ball into a screen, those guys were really good. But then when they actually chipped and actually had to putt, some of those chips and bunker shots were fantastic. So that was cool. But I enjoyed it. I always enjoy the competition, but I want to see one that's closer. This one was close for a while, but they never could get on the scoreboard. The New York team.
They played in about an hour and 45 minutes. They were done early. Like it was last night was unbelievably quick.
I think I've had my fill of Marty. Was it Marty Smith? Is that his name?
He does the sideline stuff.
Yeah, I think I've had my fill. I get the shtick with Marty's. He's okay. I think the host is great. The guy from ESPN who does
Matt
football
Berry.
as well. I think Matt Berry is terrific. They throw Van Pelt in there just because Scott is a big name and Scott's great and he's golf. He's associated with golf, but he doesn't really do much with the broadcast. But I think it's okay. Now, when they start having 2 or 3 of them in a week, there's no way I'm going to watch that much. Again, I'm waiting for something to be competitive. They've had 3 weeks. They haven't really had it be any competition. It's been 3 blowouts, but it's unique. It's very unique, to say the least.
Next week is Rory versus Tiger.
Now I'll watch that.
That's the first time Rory's team has played. They haven't played yet. And then they got, on President's Day, they got the triple header. It's a President's Day triple header.
So 3 on one day.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Do you know anything about the numbers? How the numbers have been, ratings-wise?
The first one did well. I never saw last week's. First one was 1-point-something million. I can't remember exactly what the number was, but it was good. And then last week, I have no idea with Tiger playing. I don't know what they did last week.
Yeah, speaking of numbers, hopefully we'll have them later today. Still waiting for the numbers from Monday night's national championship game. Tomorrow, Kerry Miller on both Major League Baseball. We'll talk to him about the Hall of Fame announcement from yesterday, and we'll talk some college basketball as we do each and every week with Kerry. Morgan Cox at 9:05 from the Tennessee Titans on the NFL and on the NFL Championship Series, or the championship games, as we have the Commanders and Eagles on Sunday. Eagles a 6-point favorite, the Bills and Chiefs, with the Chiefs a 2-point favorite. Our thanks to Jerry Palm and Parthu Pajai for joining us today. Wallo and Friends on Sports 56 is coming up next. For Eli Savoy and for Elijah Seegers, I'm Greg Aston. Have a great day, everybody.